Chapter 49-45. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips slightly, but I may not be able to get the inheritance of Divine Phoenix. You can. Feng family patriarch slowly held Yiqing Luo's hand and pointed at the ring and bracelet on her hand. Before Xiaogu passed away, she sealed you for thousands of years and specially sent you to the lower realm, to protect you. Xiaogu must have her reasons for doing this. These are all left by Xiaogu for you. It is also a symbol of you being her successor. Azure Dew bracelet, Azure Dew 5-piece set. These all belong to her mother. Yiqing Luo recalled that she had seen countless times in the Palace of Darkness with her mother's portrait carved on the stone wall. The top was also carved with the pattern of the Azure Dew 5-piece set. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly. That's right, Azure Dew 5-piece set could open the seal to the Emperor God's tomb. And her mother left all these for her. Didn't this already explain everything? But how to get the inheritance of Divine Phoenix? Even I don't know. Feng family patriarch's eyes were serious. I think, if it is Xiao Luo, there must be a way. The hope in the old man's eyes seemed to place all his hopes on her. Yiqing Luo couldn't say anything to reject. Grandfather. A mellow and husky male voice spoke respectfully. Dmo Xian stood behind Yiqing Luo and placed one hand on her slender shoulder. His thin lips curled up as he said firmly, I will accompany Xiao Luo. Feng family patriarch pulled their hands together and patted them lightly. If the two of you can be of one heart and stick to each other, I believe that everything will be solved easily. On the second day after Yiqing Luo brought the hostage Linglong back to the Feng residence, a group of people appeared at the entrance of the Feng residence. That was, dressed in black robes, they were disciples of the Palace of Darkness. Surrounded by countless of Palace of Darkness disciples and Jiang family's secret guards, they stood at the entrance of the Feng residence and handed over their visiting cards. Their leader was a man dressed in a luxurious brocade robe. He was dressed in a noble and luxurious outfit. However, the man was wearing a mask, revealing only two eyes that were as deep as the sea. The man was riding a white horse that was completely different from the rest of the team. Behind the white horse was a luxurious carriage. When Yiqing Luo saw the calling card, she went into a slight blank. Was she seeing things? This is an invitation from the Dark Nether Palace? The Dark Darkness Palace had come out from its hiding place? This was a big move. Incredible. I'm not going. A hand reached out and took the visiting card away, then threw it into the hands of the servant guarding the door. Go and reject him. Wait. Yiqing Luo's arms encircled that person's waist as she raised her head. Since Secluded Palace has invited us so openly, let's go over and take a look. He was quite curious as to what the Dark Palace was up to. No. Dmo Xian rejected Yiqing Luo's idea without any hesitation. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes. The gloomy palace had always been hiding in a dark corner. Now he was walking out openly. There must be a reason behind it. Rather than waiting for death, he might as well go with the flow and see what the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was up to. For this point, Dmo Xian should know this too. But why was he so resistant? Yiqing Luo suddenly thought of something as she turned her head and looked at the servant who was waiting by the side. Earlier you said, this calling card, who sent it up? Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord D. Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress, Lord D. Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-46. That person called himself the Palace Master of the Nether Palace, the servant replied. Yiqing Luo, as expected. This was the reason for Dmo Xian's abnormal behavior. He didn't want her to have anything to do with the Palace Master of the Palace of Gloomy Palace, Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu, that had once saved her. And the man who turned her into a puppet of Netherworld Palace? He was indeed someone whom Dmo Xian was unwilling to let her get close to. After all, it was a man that she couldn't hate, yet she felt guilty about. Compared to Zhu Wuxing, Dmo Xian was even more worried about Gu Jingyu. Of course, this was not because she had any thoughts about Gu Jingyu. Instead, it was Gu Jingyu's current appearance. It was more or less to soften her heart. However, Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly. If I didn't remember wrongly, Gu Jingyu should be in the Qiao residence in the Earth domain right now, being guarded by the World Group's brothers. Why did he appear here? The Palace of Gloomy Darkness has gotten him out again? Back then, in order to save her, Gu Jingyu had turned himself into a puppet of the Gloomy Palace. Then, the person behind the scenes from Dark Ghost Palace controlled his body. After that, after spending a Herculean effort, He forced the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace out of Gu Jingyu's body. Therefore she imprisoned him in the Qiao mansion. The people from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness had not only gotten Gu Jingyu out. He had also brought Gu Jingyu to the God world. From the looks of it, they were obviously here for her. The current Gu Jingyu. Was it still that puppet from Dark Nether Palace? In any case, you are not allowed to go. Dmo Xian didn't care what Gu Jingyu's motive was. She clasped the young lady's slender waist and her deep black eyes were a sheet of darkness. Yiqing Luo was just about to say something. Another servant hurried over. "Little miss, the one outside asked me to bring you a message. He said that you'd better listen to what he has to say before deciding whether or not to see him." As the servant was speaking, he was shivering under Dmo Xian's stare, almost on the verge of crying. His voice was trembling non-stop. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hands and blocked Dmo Xian's eyes, glaring at him. "Don't scare me. If grandfather sees this, I'll deduct your impression points." No. Dmo Xian was incomparably calm. "Grandfather wholeheartedly wants me to marry into his family." Yiqing Luo. "Are you proud of marrying into his family?" Yiqing Luo pinched his face and looked at the servant. "Don't bother about him, carry on." The servant trembled in fear. "That person outside said that. Young Miss Feng is living a carefree and unfettered life in the immortal realm. I believe you would like to know how your brothers are doing. If you are interested, let's meet up in the Jiang Manor." Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly congealed. Her long and narrow eyes seemed to be overflowing with light. She knew. Gu Jingyu was referring to the brothers of the World Group. What he meant was, the World Group members were in his hands. Or could it be that he knew about the World Group's current situation and wanted to share it with her? This Gu Jingyu was such a prick, and he tried every possible way to ask her to meet him. What was the reason behind it? He just felt that this was a little interesting. Don't think too much. Dmo Xian held her chin as he easily saw through the young lady's thoughts. "If you want to know about the World Group's current situation, I can tell you about it. It's not like I'm not bringing you along. What's there to be anxious about?" Yiqing Luo raised her hand and held his arm. "If there's anything wrong, just bring me along and run." Dmo Xian put down his hand, but his brows were still tightly knitted into a bundle. Chapter 49-47. Yiqing Luo's peerless brows were like a painting, her narrow eyes curved as she smiled and stretched out her fingers, smoothing his creased brows. Following that, she glanced sideways at the servant and instructed calmly, "Go out and tell Master Gu that he can keep the appointment, but I'll decide the location." She wasn't silly. He tried every means to meet her. Based on the secluded palace's temperament, there was definitely a conspiracy. She wouldn't be so silly to walk right into the trap. Want to meet him? Listen to her. Very quickly the servant came back with a reply. Gu Jingyu agreed. Yiqing Luo didn't choose a place that was too far away from the Feng residence. She chose a restaurant under Feng Liqiong's influence, and using her identity as the Feng family's young miss, she asked for a top-notch, secret room. Following that, she pulled Dmo Xian along to the appointment. When Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian arrived at the appointed location, Gu Jingyu was already waiting at the entrance. That gentle jade-like face hung the usual gentle smile. A pair of deep eyes stared deeply at Yiqing Luo, his eyes filled with warmth. So warm that Yiqing Luo had some goosebumps. When he saw Dmo Xian beside Yiqing Luo, he wasn't too surprised as his lips curled into a smile. The relationship between the Overlord and Madame D is really as good as before. His gaze looked towards Dmo Xian as though he was joking. The Overlord is so worried Madame D meeting me privately? Looks like the threat of me to the Overlord is quite high. This is my honor. Dmo Xian gave him a cold glance, indifferently, disdainfully, as though he didn't put him in his eyes at all. It was because of this sentence from Gu Jingyu. Yiqing Luo was certain. The person in front of her wasn't the Gu Jingyu she was familiar with. He was still that emotionless, with only Gu Jingyu's memories, the puppet of the secluded palace. Yiqing Luo sighed softly as she held onto Dmo Xian's arm and said calmly, "I'm the one who requested Ah Xian to accompany me after all. You're from the secluded palace and I'm from the Feng family, so I'm quite afraid to meet you alone." When Gu Jingyu heard that, he actually laughed. "So Madame D is afraid of me too?" "Of course I am." Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate at all. For a sinister and cunning rat like the gloomy palace, and the kind that carries poison, who wouldn't be afraid of being bitten by them for no reason? Ha ha ha. Gu Jingyu laughed even louder. "Should I be proud of the Dark Palace?" Yiqing Luo's brows sunk. This Gu Jingyu, who was wearing Gu Jingyu's appearance, said such words. It was like a reminder to her. Because of her, Gu Jingyu became like this. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed slightly as she pulled Dmo Xian into the room and sat on the chair. Gu Jingyu waved his palm and pushed 2 cups of hot tea in front of the 2 people. Yiqing Luo's cold eyes sunk slightly as she stared at the steaming hot tea. I'm here not to listen to your nonsense. This consort naturally knows. Gu Jingyu also picked up her teacup and took a sip. Then this consort will get straight to the point. He put down the teacup, tapped the table with his fingertips and smiled gently. Let's make a deal. Deal? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she stared at that gentle face under the mist of the tea. I and the secluded palace don't seem to have any deal to discuss, right? Yes. Gu Jingyu replied confidently. If there isn't, why would the secluded palace keep on pestering you? Yiqing Luo's half-squinted eyes revealed a dangerous chill, but that pink lips rose slightly into an arc. Tell me about it. Chapter 49-48. At this moment, Gu Jingyu's lips curled upwards mysteriously as his fingertip tapped lightly on the lid of his cup. Overlord Madame D. Why? Don't you dare to drink tea? He laughed lowly as his gentle eyes were filled with ridicule and provocation. This is Madame D's turf. Are you afraid that I have poisoned you? The one who is afraid should be you, Palace Lord. Yiqing Luo gave a cold harumph as she lowered her eyes onto the misty tea in the cup as her lips curled up in ridicule. Perhaps Palace Lord can give it a try, to see if your poison is stronger or mine. Of course it's Madame D. Gu Jingyu replied without any hesitation. Madame D's poison is known as the world's #1 poison. Even Miss Jianghu is unable to resist it, so how would I dare to compare with Madame D? Yiqing Luo swept her sleeves. It was as though a flame was leaping as it rose up. The young lady's fair palm slapped onto her palm. Profound rays burst forth. The teacup floated into the air as it splashed onto Gu Jingyu's face. The boiling hot tea splashed onto Gu Jingyu's body with a whoosh. Since you know, why are you still playing such tricks in front of me? Gu Jingyu had no intention to avoid it at all. He allowed the tea to soak his luxurious brocade robe. He lowered his eyes as he watched the tea leaves swirling on his robe, but there wasn't much change in his expression. Why don't we pour this cup into Palace Lord's mouth? How about that? Yiqing Luo's fair fingers swept across. She directly took the teacup in front of Dmo Xian into her hands. She stood up as her blazing sleeves fluttered like fire. That exquisite white jade porcelain contrasted with the red flames of the flames. It made that young lady's fair fingers emitted a jade-like luster. She walked straight towards Gu Jingyu. Madame D, I'm just joking. Gu Jingyu gave a warm smile as he immediately stood up and avoided Yiqing Luo's outstretched hand. That jade-like fair hand flashed past his eyes. A strange glint flashed past his pupils. It was fleeting. Yiqing Luo had no intention to force him. She placed the teacup heavily on the table in front of Gu Jingyu. I was just joking. Saying that, she turned around and returned to Dmo Xian's side. She knew it. As soon as he arrived at the restaurant, he saw Gu Jingyu waiting there. Something bad must have happened. He even wanted to poison the teacups. He wondered if his brain had been kicked by a donkey. Yiqing Luo sat back on the chair as she raised her brows lazily. So Palace Lord's visit this time round is to ask me to cure Miss Jianghu of the poison? No. Gu Jingyu smiled and shook his head. Miss Jianghu's poisoning is a personal matter between her and the Emperor Lady. If the Emperor Lady is unwilling to cure her, then it's her own bad fate. His tone was very light and indifferent. It was as if Jianghu's life and death were insignificant to him. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with their twists and turns. Cut the crap, I'm very busy. She stared at Vinegar Jar Mo Xian's pressure and brought Mo Xian here, not to listen to his nonsense. This time round, Gu Jingyu didn't keep her in suspense. The Emperor Lady should already know the reason why secluded palace needs you, right? I don't know. Yiqing Luo lazily dug her ears. Gu Jingyu seemed as though he didn't hear anything as he smiled and continued, Don't tell me that the Emperor Lady doesn't want to see the former Emperor Lord? It was a simple sentence. But it made Yiqing Luo's smile suddenly congeal. The emotions in her charming eyes were like a whirlpool, surging with turbulent waves. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-49. Madam Emperor, you are the key to opening the God Emperor's tomb. Gu Jingyu was very satisfied with Yi Qingluo's current expression. His smile deepened. As long as the God Emperor's tomb is opened, you will be able to meet the former Emperor of God Emperor. Yi Qingluo's brows lifted slightly, her eyes were deep and serene, like the flowing light of the stars, flickering with a few traces of treacherous coldness. But the expression on her face was calm like stagnant water without any ripples. So, the collaboration that you want to discuss is... If you open the God Emperor's tomb, secluded palace will let you in. Meet your mother. Gu Jingyu said the latter half of the sentence. His lips curled upwards, full of confidence. As though he was certain of Yi Qingluo's desire towards kinship. Yi Qingluo, this lady was good in everything. There was only one fatal flaw. That was, too much emphasis on feelings. However, everything was different from what Gu Jingyu had thought. When he finished his words, Yi Zichen was stunned. The young lady laughed instead. Does Palace Lord think I'm very silly? She pulled Dmo Xian's hand, casually fiddling with his fingertips as she raised her brows and smiled. Since I can open the God Emperor's tomb, why don't I open it myself? Why don't I meet my mother on my own? What? Must I bring along this group of people to destroy my mother's resting place? The young lady said every word, her tone sounded indifferent and lazy. However, every single word was like thunder, heavily striking Gu Jingyu's heart. Her eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a cold glint. Palace Lord, you're too insincere. The way to open the God Emperor's tomb, only secluded palace knows. Gu Jingyu didn't expect Yi Qingluo to have such a reaction. Without secluded palace's help, you can forget about meeting the former Emperor of God Emperor in this lifetime. Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a lazy smile. So what? You. Such a reaction. It had exceeded secluded palace's original expectations. Didn't Yi Qingluo want to meet her own mother? How could she possibly reject their suggestion? Yi Qingluo slowly inserted her slender jade fingers into Dmo Xian's 5 fingers, interlocking with his 10 fingers tightly. She smiled and raised her eyebrows. I have Xian. Do I need you? Haven't they heard of this saying before? With the venerable sovereign in my hands, the world is mine. Xian was here. Was he afraid that he wouldn't be able to find a way to open the tomb of the divine emperor? After all, Xian had gone to the base of the Palace of Darkness. He had been searching for this method. What was there for her to be afraid of? Yi Qingluo's laughter was melodious and mellow, like pearls falling onto a plate, very pleasant to the ears. As she smiled, she raised her eyebrows and looked at Gu Jingyu. However, Palace Master specifically came to talk to me about this transaction. You told me a piece of information. Without me, your Palace of Gloomy Shadows could not have entered the tomb of the godly emperor. After Yi Qingluo finished this sentence with a smile, her pink lips curled up even more, as the corners of her eyes added a few long and narrow seductive ripples. Her lips curled up frivolously as she said word by word, So, you're not able to take out something of equal value, so what kind of transaction do you want to discuss with me? Black mist surged in Gu Jingyu's eyes. His gentle jade-like face turned chilly. Palace Master, please leave. She pulled Dmo Xian as she stood up. After you've thought of what to use to trade with me, then come look for me at the Phoenix residence. Saying that, she pulled Dmo Xian as she walked past Gu Jingyu and left the room. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4950. Gu Jingyu sat on the chair in a daze. Until the young lady walked past him. He abruptly regained his senses. He stood up abruptly and turned his head over. His line of sight fell onto the young lady and the man's hands. From the beginning till the end, their fingers were clasped together. Wait. Inexplicably, the voice of stopping had already spilled out from his mouth. His gentle face at this moment was filled with a complicated emotion. His deep black eyes stared intently at her hand. The fiery young lady paused her footsteps, tilted her head to look at him, her long and narrow eyes, calm and indifferent. Gu Jingyu's throat tightened. He just stared at Yi Qingluo. Staring at their clasped hands. The bottom of his heart felt as if there were dense needles pricking. He didn't know why he called out to her. He also didn't know why he felt so depressed at this moment. The bottom of his heart felt as if there was a huge net densely covering his heart, making him unable to find the answer to his abnormal emotions. Palace Lord Gu. A cold mellow voice as if 1,000 years of ice was transmitted into Gu Jingyu's ears. He regained his senses. In front of him, that fiery red-robed young lady was already in the arms of a man in purple robe, tightly sealed, revealing only half of her exquisite face. That absolute possessive posture, noble and elegant with a threatening tone, "Please conduct yourself with dignity." The words fell. The man carried the young lady by the waist and walked away. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of his eyes. It was at this moment. Gu Jingyu's body suddenly seemed to be exhausted, as he sat heavily on the ground. Conduct himself? Conduct himself? His gaze and demeanor earlier. What exactly did it look like? Why, the overlord asked him to conduct himself. And it was that kind of warning and absolute possessive posture. It was as if he had some improper thoughts towards Yiqing Luo. Improper thoughts. But that was in the past. The current him should not have any feelings towards her. Why, his heart felt so uncomfortable. Ha! A light chuckle was heard from not too far away. Gu Jingyu suddenly raised his eyes vigilantly. What entered his eyes was a section of fiery red robe. The bright fiery color made his eyes reveal a ray of light. Yiqing. Before he could finish his sentence, the expression on Gu Jingyu's face gradually froze. That wasn't Yiqing Luo. Instead, he was dressed in red, but his face was extremely cold. He frowned slightly and slowly stood up. "Pavilion Master Chu, how have you been?" If this person in front of him was not Zhu Wuxin, who could it be? Chu Wuxin stood in front of Gu Jingyu, his fiery red robe fluttering in the wind. But that cold and arrogant temperament. However, it suppressed the beauty brought about by the red dress. How pitiful! Zhu Wuxin looked at Gu Jingyu and asked, not understanding what he meant. Gu Jingyu frowned. "What do you mean? You don't even have the heart to love someone. Pitiful and lamentable." Zhu Wuxian's voice was cold, and there was not much fluctuation in it. Gu Jingyu frowned even more. At this moment, Zhu Wuxian glanced sideways at him with an unclear meaning. "Are you really willing to give Yiqing Luo to Diamo Xian?" Back at Feng Manor, Feng family's patriarch and Feng Liqiong were in a heated argument. The two children had already been brought by Grandma Feng to a place further away to play. Yiqing Luo had just stepped into the main hall. She was shocked by the vase which was thrown towards her. Diamo Xian's reaction was swift. He caught the vase with one hand and used the other to pull the young lady behind him, blocking in front of him. "Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love." "Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 49-51. The entire house was in a mess. The return of the two made the quarreling father and son to stop. Yiqing Luo carefully poked her head out and hugged the vase in Diamo Xian's hands tightly as she walked over. "Are you two trying to demolish the house? Don't you know that everything in the house is very expensive?" She put the vase back in place and turned to look at Feng Liqiong. "Why? The minute I'm not at home you start quarreling?" Feng family's patriarch was about to speak. Yiqing Luo had already walked over to Feng Liqiong. "Uncle, do you want to explain to me why did you start a fight with grandfather?" Feng Liqiong's face darkened with a "I'm mad, don't provoke me" attitude. It indeed looked scary. "Little Luo, don't talk so much with him, his brain is spoiled." Feng family's patriarch gave his son an angry stare. Towards Feng Liqiong's black face, Yiqing Luo wasn't afraid at all. She walked over to Feng Liqiong and sat down, staring straight at Feng Liqiong. Staring so hard that Feng Liqiong's heart was flustered as he stared back with a black face. "What are you looking at?" "Look at you now, what do you look like?" Yiqing Luo replied indifferently. "If mother knew that you and grandfather fought, she would definitely be very upset." The moment this sentence came out, Feng Liqiong's pupils suddenly contracted. His black face instantly covered with frost. "She's upset? If she knew that she's upset, she wouldn't have abandoned the Feng family. If she really didn't care, how would she pass away?" Yiqing Luo's voice was very calm. "Uncle, you are the brother that mother values the most, you are her pride, what do you think? Now that you've become like this, what kind of blow would it be to her? You can be angry at mother's desperate actions for love, you can be angry at my appearance, but you can't be angry at grandfather. He is an elder, your father, mother's father. Uncle, this. Not only mother will be disappointed, I will also be disappointed in you." The young lady stared at Feng Liqiong, enunciating each word firmly. That pair of charming eyes, from the original enthusiasm, gradually became dim and cold. She stood up, seemingly utterly disappointed. She didn't look at him anymore. If little uncle feels that he really has to continue like this, that everyone in the world has let you down, and that he has to live like this, I have nothing to say. She walked to Master Feng and held Master Feng's arm. Grandpa, let's go. I want to discuss something about my mother with you. Feng family's patriarch walked out of the messy room under Yi Qing Luo's support. But when she reached the door, she turned to look at Feng Liqiong. Grandfather, don't worry. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled craftily as she winked at Patriarch Feng and whispered, he will follow along. In the study. Yi Qing Luo asked Patriarch Feng to take a seat. Dmo Xian immediately poured a cup of warm tea and sent it to Patriarch Feng. Just as he sat down, the door of the study was opened with a bang. Feng Liqiong walked in with an air of viciousness. Yi Qing Luo winked at Patriarch Feng. See, she said Feng Liqiong would come. Patriarch Feng sighed helplessly. When he raised his eyes to look at Feng Liqiong, he put on a straight face and said angrily, what are you following me for? This matter concerns the Feng family, why can't I come? Feng Liqiong said righteously. Yi Qing Luo patted Patriarch Feng's hand and gave him a way out. Grandfather, this matter does require uncle's help. Chapter 4952. Feng family patriarch's expression eased up, but he still snorted coldly. It's good enough that he doesn't create trouble, what can he do to help? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she changed the topic. I just met the mistress of the Palace of Nether Palace and roughly know the other party's motive. Mentioning this point, Feng family patriarch's expression changed slightly. The Palace of Nether Palace are getting more and more daring. Now that they dare to come out from the dark, I think they have already made full preparations. According to my guess, the real mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace should be suppressed by something. Yi Qing Luo recalled the last time when the mastermind possessed Gu Jingyu's body. Her brows creased slightly, and now the other party directly appeared openly. I'm afraid the mastermind has or is about to recover his peak power. She had never crossed hands with the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace. But it was only under the situation where his power was suppressed and his body was restricted. When she faced the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace, the pressure was multiplied. Not to mention, the other party was at his peak. Probably not fully recovered. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand under the table and quietly held the young lady's little hand. The warm palm dispelled the young lady's uneasy emotions. If he had recovered, he wouldn't have asked Gu Jingyu to specially look for you to cooperate. The man's words made Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as her eyes flashed. You mean? The mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace wants to open the God Emperor's tomb, is because they want to make use of the tomb to recover their own power? Moreover, the other party urgently needs the power of the God Emperor's tomb, so at this most crucial juncture he couldn't wait to look for me to request for cooperation? Thinking of this, it made sense. What did you say? Feng family patriarch's reaction was huge as he suddenly put down the teacup in his hand and stared at Yi Qing Luo with wide eyes. God Emperor's tomb? The Palace of Nether Palace wants to open the God Emperor's tomb? When this sentence came out of Feng family patriarch's mouth carefully, even Feng Liqiong's expression became extremely tense and unsightly. Yi Qing Luo nodded. I want to tell you this matter. Palace of Nether Palace needs me to open the God Emperor's tomb. How could they know about the Divine Emperor's tomb? How is it possible to find the tomb of the Divine Emperor? Master Feng was shocked. Feng Liqiong suddenly grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm. Secluded palace. Know where the God Emperor's tomb is? Dmo Xian was just about to stretch out his hand to stop Feng Liqiong. Yi Qing Luo silently shook her head at him, then her vision shot towards Feng Liqiong. The man's handsome face was devoid of any color. A pair of widened black eyes rippled with layers of ripples. The two hands that were clasping her wrists didn't have much strength and were even trembling slightly. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips as she shook her head. I don't know, the other party only said, I am the key to opening the God Emperor's tomb, and Secluded Darkness Palace has a way to let me meet Mother. When the last two words left his mouth, Feng Liqiong's body stiffened. Both his hands seemed to have no strength left. Yi Qing Luo's wrist. He slumped into the chair in disappointment. Sister? Can I see my sister? He muttered softly as though he was possessed. Although Feng family patriarch was shocked, but he still had some rationality. His white brows knitted tightly. Can the Palace of Nether Palace's words be trusted? 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4953. Yiqing Luo touched her chin and pondered for a moment. Generally speaking, it's not trustworthy. And even if what he said is true. If I really agree to cooperate with him, I'm afraid that before I even see my mother, the first thing he will do after achieving his goal is... Yiqing Luo paused for a moment as she suppressed her voice and curled her lips lightly. That's right, kill me. She glanced at the dazed Feng Liqiong and emphasized, no matter if what the Palace of Darkness said is true or false. We don't need to rely on their power to enter the Divine Emperor's tomb. If what the Palace of Darkness said is true, won't we still be able to see my mother after we enter the tomb? Why would we need to cooperate with the Palace of Darkness? But... Feng Liqiong, who had been silent, opened his mouth. His voice was very hoarse and his pitch-black eyes stared deeply at Yiqing Luo. Do you know? Where is the Divine Emperor's tomb? Yiqing Luo's pink lips moved, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Feng family's patriarch sighed softly. Back then Xiao Gu had already predicted her own consequences, so early on she had already set up her tomb. An extremely mysterious place that was hidden in all the realms. Even us relatives don't know where the Divine Emperor's tomb is. This also led to the rumor that our Feng family has treasures. Hidden treasures of the former Divine Emperor. But if there were treasures, Feng Liqiong wouldn't have schemed Yiqing Luo in the future. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes as her eyes revealed a certain resolute glint. She opened her mouth and her voice was sonorous. I intend to go to the Divine Emperor's tomb to take a look, perhaps. I can obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance. The young lady's clear voice drilled into everyone's eardrums. Feng family's patriarch's expression congealed slightly as his eyes were filled with worry. Xiao Luo, do you know where the Divine Emperor's tomb is? Feng Liqiong looked at her with a hopeful look. Yiqing Luo nodded. Perhaps the rumor outside. And what little uncle is looking for and what the Palace of Darkness is trying to get. Feng family's treasure is in my hands. The atmosphere was tense. The entire study room fell into a strange silence. After a long while, Feng Liqiong's head stiffened as she stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo. On, you? There was a raging fire burning in his eyes. As long as she nodded. In the next instant he reached out to snatch it. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change as she raised her brows slightly. Instead she met Feng Liqiong's gaze and smiled. Yes, it's on me, so? Little uncle wants to snatch it? She was very straightforward. It was so straightforward that the fire in Feng Liqiong's eyes was gradually extinguished. He took a look at Diamo Xian, then looked at Patriarch Feng and roared angrily. You have these two people to protect you, what can I snatch from you? I'm just angry. The Feng family's treasure is really on you and you still lied to me. Previously, I really didn't know what the Feng family's treasure was. Yiqing Luo spread out her hands. Today, it was only after Palace Lord Gu's reminder that I roughly guessed it. Feng Liqiong snorted coldly. Like hell I'd believe you. Patriarch Feng pulled Yiqing Luo's hand. Little Luo, is what you said true? Feng family really has a treasure? Yiqing Luo nodded. If I didn't guess wrongly, it should be something like this, that's right. She gave Patriarch Feng a gentle smile as she held Patriarch Feng's hand. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4954. Grandfather, Xian and I will go search for the God Emperor's tomb first. Yiqing Luo said, as long as we enter the God Emperor's tomb before the Palace of Darkness, their plans will be completely messed up. Gu Jingyu would come knocking at their door at this juncture. This meant that the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness, they already had a new plan. If they wanted to cut off the Palace of Darkness's ambition, they could only enter the God Emperor's tomb before the Palace of Darkness, to dig out all the secrets of the God Emperor's tomb. In this way the Palace of Darkness's plan would fail, and they would be able to suppress the Palace of Darkness's ambition. As compared to the Palace of Darkness, she was the descendant of the Emperor of God Emperor, the owner of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, the owner of the Azure Water 5-piece set. The chances of winning were higher. No way. Feng family's patriarch rejected without a second thought. Since the Palace of Darkness has already sent out the invitation, That means that the people from the Palace of Darkness have their eyes on you. If you go now, wouldn't it be extremely dangerous? She would think so. The people from the Palace of Darkness would naturally think so too. How would the Palace of Darkness allow Yiqing Luo to enter the Emperor of God Emperor's tomb? Probably following behind Yiqing Luo silently. After finding the God Emperor's tomb, wouldn't Yiqing Luo be in danger? Even with Dmo Shen by her side, it would be difficult for her to fight against so many enemies. There was absolutely no way to be assured. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, her smile was firm and had a calming charisma. Grandfather, I understand your concerns. Don't worry, since I've chosen to head to the God Emperor's tomb, I'm already prepared. How could I possibly bear to let someone dirty my mother's resting place? Feng family's patriarch was filled with words to stop her. But when he met the young lady's firm eyes, he was so stunned that he couldn't say another word. His throat tightened. All his unwillingness and worries turned into a long sigh. Grandfather. Dmo Shen's mellow voice spoke gently. I will use my life to protect Lil Luo, whatever you're worried about, I will absolutely not let it happen. He stood up and cupped his fists towards Feng family's patriarch. Bit by bit, he lowered his noble head. Grandfather, please hand Lil Luo, over to me. Please, trust us. Each and every word was forceful and sonorous. The heart of the Feng clan master was shaking and it was pounding. After a long while, he lowered his head. I can't control the two of you. Do whatever you want. Yiqing Luo smiled and stretched out her hand to hug Feng family's patriarch's neck. She smiled intimately. Grandfather, how can I bear to let you be sad because of me? So, don't worry, I will definitely protect myself. As she spoke, she waved her hand. Mother left me many things. Even after Mother passed away, Mother has always been protecting me. So, you really don't have to worry. The girl's soft voice soothed the old man's worries. In the end, the old man seemed to be convinced. He stared at her with a straight face, amused and angry at the same time. He couldn't keep a straight face. Okay, I'll let you go. Feng clan master covered his face hard with a rather helpless look. After covering it for a while, he moved his hand away again and his expression was solemn. Little Luo, remember, no matter what happens, Feng family is your strongest backing. I know. Yiqing Luo smiled as she rested her head on Feng clan master's shoulder. I will meet Mother and obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance and return to grandfather's side. Chapter 49:55. I want to go too. Feng Liqiong's expression was cold as her dark eyes stared at Yiqing Luo quietly. I want to go too. You can't go. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met Feng Liqiong's gaze without any hesitation. Feng Liqiong's expression darkened. Why can't I go? I just want to go over and take a look. Could it be that you're afraid that I'll snatch away your opportunity and stop you from obtaining the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix? If I were afraid, I wouldn't have said these things in front of you. Yiqing Luo straightened up and sat down beside Feng Liqiong. She faced Feng Liqiong and faced her questioning gaze. She did not panic in the slightest. Little uncle, it's precisely because I trust you that I'm willing to let you know about these things. I know that you want to go because you want to see Mother. You want to personally ask Mother if she regrets the choice she made. But, she paused. His eyes met Feng Liqiong's and he could clearly see, when she says that his purpose is only to see his mother. Feng Liqiong's eyes showed clear signs of avoiding his gaze. Even his face was a little red. It was as if he was ashamed of having his thoughts poked out. Yiqing Luo had always known. This little uncle of his. Actually, it was just that the emotions in his heart were hard to calm down. Actually, he missed Feng Gu more than anyone else. However, there was really no way to satisfy his wish this time around. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. Little uncle, the current God realm, under the influence of the Palace of Gloom, is no longer the God realm that you know. If you still want to protect the God realm, to protect the God realm that Mother once wanted to protect. As the acting God Emperor, you have to stay. If you leave with me and the Palace of Darkness finds out, what do you think the Palace of Darkness will do? Feng Liqiong's throat tightened and she couldn't speak. What would happen to Shadowy Palace? If it was him, he wouldn't be able to do so. They would definitely take the opportunity to start a war. Take down the immortal world in one fell swoop. If the God world became the property of the Dark Nether Palace, I'm afraid the lower realms would also suffer. All the realms would suffer a bloodbath. The consequences were extremely serious. Feng Liqiong's hand on the table clenched into a fist. He pounded the table heavily. Damned palace of gloomy darkness. He gritted his teeth. But he had already calmed down. Yiqing Luo tentatively stretched out her hand and gently placed it on his shoulder. Little uncle, if I can really meet mother, I can help you to pass on the words you want to say to her. After a pause she continued, if there is a chance I will do my best to let you meet. Feng Liqiong clenched her fists even tighter. He clenched his fists so tightly that his fingertips turned white. His joints were protruding. He gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. There was no good answer, nor was there a bad answer. Yiqing Luo looked at him for several breaths and retracted her hand. Her pink lips curled upwards as she gazed at the few of them and said word by word, "You guys guard the God realm and wait for us to return." That night, Yiqing Luo used Feng Liqiong's name to call Ji Wuhua and Feng Changqing over to the Feng residence. As soon as dinner was over, Feng Changqing was called to the study room by Patriarch Feng for a discussion. Yiqing Luo then pulled Ji Wuhua into the room. Ji Wuhua followed behind Yiqing Luo excitedly, his face filled with excitement. "Miss Qing Luo, are you trying to exchange feelings with me secretly?" Chapter 4956. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. She just dragged Ji Wuhua and threw him into the room. The door was shut with a bam sound. Inside the room it was pitch black. Ji Wuhua got even more excited. "Miss Qing Luo, I didn't expect you. I didn't expect you to be such a Miss Qing Luo. But I like it. He. Ji Wuhua's smile was extremely radiant. He opened his arms and closed his eyes, howling at Yiqing Luo. "Miss Qing Luo, come on. Please don't pity me just because I'm a delicate flower. You can do whatever you want to do. I can do whatever you want." Hiss, the sound of candlelight was accompanied by the young lady's clear voice. "Really, anything?" That soft voice made Ji Wuhua's smile even more radiant. He nodded hard. "Yes, as long as it's Miss Qing Luo, anything is fine." "I'll leave it to you," the young lady said with a smile. "Come on." "What do you mean?" Ji Wuhua vaguely sensed that something was wrong and opened his eyes. It was okay if he didn't open his eyes. But when he opened his eyes, he was shocked. In the room where the candlelight was flickering, there were not only him and Yiqing Luo. There were two strangers, a man and a woman, sitting on the chair. Yiqing Luo, who was laughing in the arms of the overlord. Ji Wuhua. He'd better close his eyes. He felt a death stare staring at him. That was the death stare from His Majesty Di Zun. He was going to die. Just when Ji Wuhua was about to cry, Yiqing Luo said with a smile, "Lord Flower King, let's start." The four words "Lord Flower King" made Ji Wuhua's hair stand on end. He shuddered and stepped back. "Okay, what do we do?" He was just about to move. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly and her smile became even sweeter. But the threatening look in her eyes was enough to make Ji Wuhua's heart tighten. "Of course. Disguise these two as me and Ah Xian." She looked up and smiled at Ji Wuhua. "Just now Lord Flower King said that I can do anything. You shouldn't be lying, right?" Lie. She was the one who had used her beauty to trick him. "Ji Wuhua, I feel wronged but I can't say it." Not only could he not say it, he had to accept it with grievance. "No, I won't," staring at the overlord's death stare as well as Yiqing Luo's death smile. Ji Wuhua was very cowardly. "I am the Flower King. How could the most honest person? How could he lie to you?" Sob, sob, sob. Yiqing Luo nodded satisfactorily. "Start your performance." Ji Wuhua. Inside the room, there were two strangers who were disciples of the Emperor Palace. Their figures and postures were similar to Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. When the both of them came out with their disguises, they changed into Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's clothes. If one did not look closely, they did indeed look like two different people. However, after all, a fake was just a fake. His mannerisms and actions were somewhat similar. However, his temperament was clearly different. Ji Wuhua was busy for half a day before he finally heaved a sigh of relief as he sat down on the table. "What are you trying to do by making two fakes?" Yiqing Luo smiled as she passed him a cup of tea. "You've worked hard." Ji Wuhua instantly jumped up as though he was injected with chicken blood. He received the tea from Yiqing Luo and stared at the tea, the cup that Miss Qing Luo touched. The tea that Miss Qing Luo poured for me personally. Sob, sob, sob. He wasn't going to drink it. He wanted to keep it. Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please collect it gently. Trash seventh young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please collect it gently. Chapter 4957. Yiqing Luo's next sentence knocked him down from the peak of excitement. Let's continue after the tea. Ji Wuhua was so scared that he almost dropped the cup in his hand. Continue? Continue what? Yiqing Luo pointed to her own face and then to Diamo Xian. It's our turn. Ji Wuhua, did you think it was easy for me to disguise myself? Did you think I could easily disguise myself? My hands are sore from tormenting 2 people in a row. I want to go on strike. I quit. Damn, it smells so good. Ji Wuhua resigned himself to his fate as he picked up the tools and started a series of... First, she removed her makeup, and removed the alluring face that she had put on earlier. Then she put on a new pretty face that was more delicate and mischievous. After that, helped Diamo Xian to disguise himself. Yiqing Luo wanted to disguise Diamo Xian as a heroic and mighty man in his 30s. Compared to her, it was like an uncle with a lowly, so sexy and flirtatious. But perhaps Ji Wuhua was intimidated by Diamo Xian's majesty and his hands were trembling. Or perhaps Ji Wuhua did it on purpose. After an hour and a half of disguise, finally the finished product was presented. Yiqing Luo's jaw almost dropped. Wow. 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 It was a fair and delicate face. So delicate that it was cute. Her long and slender eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. His deep blue pupils rippled with a pure and mysterious light that was as deep as the sea. Even the lips were pink and lovely like a rose. Yiqing Luo's maiden heart was about to burst. Ji Wuhua must have done it on purpose. Ji Wuhua looked at the 14 or 15-year-old young man in front of him and expressed his satisfaction. Such an overlord. Could he still bluff? He only knew how to give him a death stare. He only knew how to scare him. Humph, even if he wanted to scare people now, he couldn't use his majesty anymore? Ji Wuhua's face was full of pride and his little mouth was about to rise to the sky. However, seeing Diamo Xian's face reflected in the bronze mirror, he squinted his clear and limpid eyes as he cast a sidelong glance. Ji Wuhua's complacent smile froze on his face. Shivering with cold. Bowing down to the big shots. I was wrong. Ji Wuhua admitted defeat decisively. Diamo Xian curled his cherry blossom pink lips slightly. Wrong, do you know what to do now? I'll help you disguise yourself again. Ji Wuhua straightened his back. Even if I changed my appearance into a cute little girl. The overlord's oppressive aura and murderous death stare were not weakened at all. It was too scary. Ji Wuhua's small hands trembled as he was about to help Diamo Xian remove the disguise on his face. A fair little hand suddenly stretched out. Then he blocked Ji Wuhua's movement. The girl's pretty eyes curved slightly, and she smiled with incomparable joy. That's good. I don't need to disguise myself again. But. Ji Wuhua looked at Diamo Xian hesitantly. Diamo Xian raised his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo. That black eyes that were as pure and innocent as the sea were like azure blue gems, sparkling with brilliance. He asked, do you like it? Like, Yiqing Luo nodded like a chick pecking rice. As long as it's a Xian, I like it. In that instant, the man's imposing aura, which was overflowing with a vicious aura, suddenly disappeared. That delicate and adorable eyebrows and wrinkles also calmed down. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4958. Yiqing Luo leaned forward and cupped the man's face with both hands. That's it, no need to change. And I won't exchange. Diamo Xian unconditionally agreed to any request of his darling. Yiqing Luo's glass-like eyes smiled like a crescent moon. This Xian is really cute, so cute that I want to. She hugged the man and said, I want to hide you from others. Diamo Xian's rose-like lips, his smile was pure and clear, even his voice had become compatible with that face, so ethereal that it could cleanse one's soul. So Lil Luo likes this. Yiqing Luo's maiden heart thumped wildly. Too cute. I can't hold on. I want to hug him. However, as a pacifying boy, she was still rational. After the man said this sentence, she immediately continued, because it's Xian, I like him. The man chuckled softly. His sapphire blue eyes were filled with a doting and helpless smile. You. She could always make him happy inadvertently. Ji Wuhua, who had been ignored and thrown away after using it, was at a loss for words. Hey, can't you pay attention? I'm still standing there. Was there a need to show off their love in such a deranged manner? That was his goddess. His heart ached. He was struggling internally and his mind was filled with thousands of scenarios. rushing forward, pushing Di Zun away and taking back his goddess. But in fact, he only dared to stand where he was, holding his aching heart, motionless. That night, Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian, together with the barbaric Blood-Bone King, quietly left the Phoenix Manor and headed towards the boundary of the God Realm. In the darkness, a few figures were faintly discernible. Right then, on the second floor of the restaurant, a curtain was lifted, revealing a pair of charming eyes. In the dark night, those charming eyes were like the stars in the night sky, dazzling and dazzling. Staring in the direction where the figures disappeared, the girl's pink lips softly clicked her tongue. TSK. I guessed right. The people from the Palace of Darkness were really. He stared at her all the time. He thought that he had made thorough preparations. He didn't expect that he would be exposed before he even set off. The influence of the Netherworld Palace was getting bigger and bigger in the God Realm. This time they had to speed up. Otherwise, grandfather and little uncle might not be able to hold on for much longer. Ah Shin, no, now I should call you? Ayun. The girl smiled sweetly, her eyes like crescent moons. He changed his appearance. Naturally he had to change his name. Now Xian was called Chaoyun to the public. Her name was Muyu. Morning clouds and evening rain. Clouds in the morning, rain in the evening. Day and night, I pass the days together with my son. Say, how long do you think it will take them to find out that those two are fakes? They won't find out. Dmo Xian replied indifferently, the map in their hands is half real and half fake. With the Imperial Palace's disciples escorting them, as well as the blood-bone barbaric king's protection, even if it's Gu Jingyu, he wouldn't be able to detect. That's fake. Yi Qing Luo leaned lazily in his arms as she used one hand to brush his black hair, but secluded palace isn't stupid. So we have to be fast. Dmo Xian held her slender waist lightly, when dawn breaks, we'll leave. Yi Qing Luo nodded smilingly. 2 days later. God Realm's barren land in a rather remote village. Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian were resting in a simple tea house. A pair of men and horses were extremely arrogant as they stepped on the dust. Chapter 49-59. The iron-blood horse raised its hooves and trampled on the tables and chairs in the tea house. Sawdust flew. It almost hit Yi Qing Luo. Dmo Xian raised his hand to block it. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and looked at that group of people. A total of 14 people. The leader was a man and a woman. The man's build was huge and strong like a bear. The woman was not bad-looking, but there was a strong aura in her eyes. Both of them looked about the same age, around 24 or 25. The head of the Dark Void Hall is here again. Half a month ago? Didn't they just come? Why are they here again? They know that those little brothers have left, so they specially came over to seek revenge? Isn't the Dark Void Hall backed by the Jiang family's aristocratic family? So arrogant, aren't they afraid of causing a backlash from other cultivators? Not far away the villagers complained unwillingly. But no one dared to stand out. The leader jumped off the horse and kicked the ruined table. Is the boss of your tea house blind? Why don't you come out and serve? His line of sight swept across. His gaze fell on the seat where Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian were sitting. It was no wonder that he noticed this side at first glance. Mainly, the entire outer shop of the tea house. Because of their arrival, the tables and chairs were all ruined. Their table was the only one that was still intact. Moreover, the other villagers had long shrunk to the side. They were the only ones who were still sitting there calmly. All of you get up. The leader strode over. This seat, we want it. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes in interest. She didn't expect that in the God Realm. To encounter this kind of evil tyrants traveling. It was said that the entire God Realm was full of awesome cultivators. Any one of them was capable of doing something earth-shattering. Although this group of villagers were just villagers. But they were still cultivators, right? Was it really good to be so cowardly? Could they still behave like a cultivator from the God Realm? If those people from the lower realm saw this, wouldn't they be disillusioned with the God Realm? Yi Qing Luo expressed that she was incomparably disillusioned now. I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? Perhaps it was the first time that the leader had met someone who dared to ignore him. He slapped the table hard. The 2 teacups and the teapot on the table toppled over. Tea was poured all over the table. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes slightly as she looked at the leader. Her charming eyes were calm, her delicate eyebrows curved like the crescent moon. Without the slightest hint of fear, he met the ferocious gaze of the leader. Then her pink lips curled up bit by bit, revealing a lovely smile. You spilled my tea. What? The leader frowned as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Yiqing Luo was still smiling as she repeated a sentence. You spilled my tea. The leader's eyes were filled with rage. What did you say? The owner of the tea house immediately came forward. Boss, these two are just passers-by. They don't know the rules. Please forgive them. We've specially prepared a room for you. You can rest inside, rest inside. As the boss was saying that, he signaled Yiqing Luo with his eyes, making them take the opportunity to leave. Old man. The leader grabbed the collar of the tea house owner and lifted him up with one hand. Since they don't know the rules, I'll teach them what the rules are. The profound grade of the tea house owner was not low. At least Yiqing Luo could sense the strong profound grade aura of the tea house owner. But, the tea house owner was indeed easily detained by the other party. Chapter 4960. It could be seen how powerful the Grand Hall Master of Dark Void Hall was. Grand Hall Master, they're just passers-by, please be magnanimous and let them go. The tea house boss couldn't bear to implicate the young couple. So much nonsense, do you believe that I'll teach you a lesson too? The leader impatiently threw a punch towards the tea house boss's face. Ah! A sharp shriek pierced through the sky. The leader painfully hugged his hand as he staggered backwards 2 steps. The tea house boss was suddenly let go. Losing the support of his strength, he fell backwards weakly. But he didn't fall. A fair little hand clasped onto his shoulder. A seemingly soft and slender wrist. But it was able to steadily support his body, allowing him to stand firmly. The tea house boss heaved a sigh of relief while still in a state of shock. Turning his head, he saw that dainty young lady with a sweet smile on her face. He was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. Madam Chow. His original intention was not to involve the young couple in this matter. He had not expected. But now it was this young girl who had lent him a helping hand. This time, how would the people from Dark Void Hall let her off? Grand Hall Master. Cousin brother. A few exclamations were heard from the direction of that group of people. The lady and the other cultivators who were dressed in martial arts attire ran towards the leader. They only saw that the leader's hand, which was about to hit the tea house boss's face, had a hole pierced through it, and water was gushing out. That fiendish face was twisted into a ball because of the pain. It was that young lady who did this. The leader's eyes were sinister as she stared angrily at the direction of that dainty young lady. Do you know who we are? Then do you know who I am? The young lady's tender lips curled upwards as she gave a light smile. The young lady's question. It made the surrounding people's hearts tighten. The leader's brows creased tightly as she sized up Yiqing Luo vigilantly, as though she was scrutinizing her identity. If she dared to ask such a question. Presumably, the backing behind her must be very strong. The leader pondered for a moment and asked, Who are you? Yiqing Luo's delicate pink lips slowly rose upwards. That half-smile, with a hint of mockery in it, caused the leading woman to feel a strange feeling in her heart for no reason. Just as he was about to stop Yiqing Luo from speaking, he heard that melodious and soft voice, which was like that of a girl next door, enunciating every word, I am your father. Courting death. The leader's eyes shot out a baleful aura, as the long spear in her hand swept out, directly piercing towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't have the slightest change. Instead, she was all smiles as she looked at the incoming long spear. His pink lips carelessly spat out words that made people feel ashamed and annoyed. My good daughter, you're not dead yet. Why would your father seek death? The moment the spear fell, in front of the young lady, an invisible barrier formed by an invisible shockwave blocked the spear. After that, a ray of dark light tore through the sky and descended. Bang! The moment the earth-shattering explosion rang out, a loud sound rang out. The leader of the group fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Only to see that dainty young lady dressed in a peach-colored long dress was being protected in the arms of a man dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe. The leader of the group clearly saw this earth-shattering dark light oppressive force. It was just that the man had casually waved his sleeves and created it. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress, Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4961. Her eyes widened as she stared incredulously at the tall man. She couldn't believe her own eyes. Yiqing Luo walked over to them with a light smile. Those cultivators who were following behind were so frightened that they retreated backwards as they looked at her with vigilance. The leader's face turned pale as he stared at Yiqing Luo. He recalled that his hand was pierced through by that young lady using something unknown. This was totally ruining his hand. Thinking of this, the leader's eyes turned scarlet as he gritted his teeth and bellowed, "What are you trying to do?" The young lady smiled innocently as she blinked her eyes and spoke in a soft voice, "You spilled my tea and smashed the teahouse boss's shop. How should we settle this score?" "You." The leader didn't expect that the other party actually wanted to settle the score with him. The suppressed anger in his chest suddenly sprang up at this moment. "Slut. Are you looking for death?" A paw sound was heard. A gust of hurricane struck and landed a loud slap on the leader's face. That man in the bamboo robe took steady steps as he walked to the young lady's side. A pair of azure sapphire-like eyes revealed a frosty sharpness. "If you insult her one more time, I will pull out your tongue." The man's voice was similar to a young man's voice. Very soft. When he said this sentence there wasn't much emotion. But there was a kind of which made one's heart turn cold. They didn't dare to doubt the truth of what he said. The group of people instantly didn't dare to say another word. The young lady was pampered and arrogant as she raised her eyebrows but didn't lose her young lady's charm. "My husband is very powerful. If you guys can't think it through, feel free to find trouble with us. But there's a possibility that this price is your sex life." The last two words. The young lady's tone suddenly deepened as her voice was bewitching and low. The group of people's faces turned ashen. The leader's face twisted. He gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, "Let's go." The next moment, the group of people had already disappeared in front of their eyes. A cloud of dust was kicked up. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. "Hey, don't go, I haven't paid for my tea." After the people from the Anshu Hall left, the shabby village gradually regained its hustle and bustle. Countless villagers who had been hiding in their homes squeezed over. "You two hurry up and leave." The tea house owner sighed softly, "You are outsiders, so you don't know what happened here. If you don't leave now when the people from Dark Void Hall come, the two of you, no matter how strong you are he shook his head. Let's go. If we leave, what will you do?" Yiqing Luo smiled. "That Dark Void Hall's people, no matter how I look at them, they don't look like good people. They will definitely not let you off right." She looked around at the dozens of villagers around her. "The two of us haven't reached the point where we would sacrifice your lives for our own safety." Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Shen back to her previous seat and sat down. "Why don't you tell us that Dark Void Hall? What kind of force is it?" The tea house owner looked at the girl's smiling face and felt a little worried. But the young lady was too determined. He had no choice but to sit opposite Yiqing Luo as he explained the Dark Void Hall in a concise and comprehensive manner. "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4962. Anshu Hall. It was a force that had inexplicably developed 3 months ago. Their behavior was similar to that of a bandit. In any case, everything that should be done and everything that shouldn't have been done had been done. Wherever they went, there would be a great wave of carnage. At first, some people wanted to resist. But the price of resistance. Otherwise, the entire family would be buried in a sea of fire in a single night. Otherwise, the entire village would be obliterated. No one could do anything to the Anshu Hall. Because the power behind the Anshu Hall was one of the divine world's 5 great aristocratic families, the Jiang family. Or perhaps, everything that the Anshu Hall had done had been instructed by the nobles of the Jiang clan. The current Anshu Hall had taken root in various places in the God realm. It only took 3 months. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her brows creased slightly. The nobles of the Jiang family, this made her think of the Palace of Darkness. The Jiangs had long colluded with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. If the Anshu Hall was a subsidiary force of the Jiang clan, this also meant that, 3 months ago, the Gloomy Palace had already extended their claws into the God realm. But what is the purpose? The Jiang clan was one of the 5 great aristocratic clans of the divine realm. Ruining his own reputation like this, causing his reputation to resent him? Aren't you afraid of incurring a backlash from those profounders? The Jiang family's aristocrats? Why would they allow the Dark Void Hall to do such a bandit thing so wantonly? Yiqing Luo asked puzzledly. The tea house owner shook his head. "I'm not too sure either. However, I overheard those people chatting while drinking tea here. The tea house owner paused for a moment, then lowered his voice and said, "The people from Anshu Hall seem to be looking for a place." "Find a place?" Between Yiqing Luo's enchanting eyes, a glint flashed past. However, on the surface, there was still that delicate and innocent expression. Looking for a place? If he's a noble, isn't it just a matter of saying the name of the place he's looking for? They don't even know where they are. The tea house owner lowered his voice even further. "I heard them say that the Anshu Hall is still spread out in every region, even deep in the mountains and ancient forests. Countless people have been planted, all for the sake of finding that place." Yiqing Luo was almost certain now. The existence of the Anshu Hall. It was probably done by the Palace of Darkness. He wanted to find the location of the Divine Sovereign's tomb. However, how could the secluded Darkness Palace be so sure that the Divine Emperor's tomb was in the God realm? Would he be able to find the Divine Emperor's tomb if he searched everywhere in the Divine world? "Girl, have you forgotten what happened to you in the Palace of Darkness?" Old Man Sang's voice reminded her in her mind. Yiqing Luo, what? Old Man Sang said, "The stone wall of the Palace of Darkness once brought you to the periphery of the Divine Emperor's tomb. And the Palace of Darkness must have known the scenery outside of the Palace of Darkness through your consciousness. The Palace of Gloomy Shadow is searching for the tomb of the Divine Emperor in such a way. They must be searching for that place that looks similar to the surroundings of the Palace of Gloomy Shadow." Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she scoffed in her heart. What a pity, after preparing everything and planning everything, we still can't even find a destination. The tea house boss saw that Yiqing Luo didn't speak for a long time and thought that she was stunned by the power of the Jiang family's aristocrats. He tried his best to persuade them, "Two customers, now that you know the power of the Anshu Hall, you'd better leave this place quickly. If the Grand Hall Master of the Anshu Hall brings his men over, they will not let you off. That pair of siblings are vicious and merciless, and they like to snatch women and men by force. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash, Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4963. You and your husband's looks are too unsafe. As he spoke, he sighed. If it was yesterday, at least there would be a team of young brothers to take you away, unfortunately. Yiqing Luo touched her face. Disguising herself as a pretty girl from a humble family could still be praised as pretty. She really had a good foundation. No matter how she disguised herself, she was still a beauty. Her slender brows rose slightly. Between her delicate brows, there was an unquestionable firmness. "I know you have good intentions, but my husband is very powerful, so I am not afraid of whatever Dark Void Hall, whatever Jiang family's aristocrats. Don't worry about us, they can't hurt us, husband and wife, and will absolutely not let them hurt you." Finishing her words, the young lady slightly raised her head, playfully winked at the man beside her. "Ah Yun, am I right?" The man's brows at this time, there was a touch of gentleness and tenderness. Listening to the young lady saying, "husband," and "us husband and wife," his mood was so happy that he could fly to the sky. Hearing her call him that, it felt great. Looks like he had to settle this title as soon as possible. Dmo Xian's eyes drooped, affectionate and affectionate. "Yes. What you said are all right." The tea house boss saw that he couldn't persuade them and could only helplessly say, "Then both of you have to be careful." Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes twitched, suddenly asked, "Oh yes, you mentioned a team of young brothers. Who are they?" That team of young brothers also had a conflict with the Dark Void Hall? The tea house boss nodded. "Yesterday the Dark Void Hall came to make a scene. Coincidentally, that team of young brothers were resting here. Both sides had a little conflict, and then started to fight. Yesterday that group of young brothers also taught the Dark Void Hall a lesson. Today the Dark Void Hall's eldest brother and sister came over. I'm afraid they heard that the team of young brothers had left, and came over to take revenge on us. Unexpectedly. Today they had kicked an iron plate again. The Dark Void Hall had been taught a lesson for 2 consecutive days. The Jiang family's aristocrats were probably going to intervene. No wonder the tea house boss kept persuading Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian to leave. After all, the Anshu Hall had been suppressing their hatred and anger for 2 days. That team does have guts. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a trace of admiration. The tea house owner said, "That team seems to be a mercenary group. They probably got separated from the mercenary group. I think I heard them mention that they are some people from the World Mercenary Group." The tea house owner sighed with emotion. As expected, heroes come from the young. I wonder when did such a young mercenary group appear in the god realm. Furthermore, they are filled with righteousness. If they can grow up, they will definitely be able to make a name for themselves in the god realm. Yi Qing Luo, did she hear wrongly? Did she hear wrongly? World Mercenary Group? The World Group? How could this be? Yi Qing Luo's eyes widened as she looked at DMO Xian and then at the tea house's boss. Boss, you just said what mercenary group? Can you repeat it again? Under the heavens mercenary group. The tea house owner said. Yi Qing Luo, was it a coincidence? Weren't the World Group brothers still in the Earth realm? How could they possibly reach the God realm? How was it possible for them to fight in the God realm? Unless they were using cheats. Yi Qing Luo expressed that her inner heart was in shock, as she couldn't react in time. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Chapter 4964. Yi Qing Luo suppressed the shock in her heart. Where did they go? No matter if it was a coincidence or not. She had to chase after them to take a look. Were they really her bunch of brothers? The tea house boss pointed to a place. I seem to have heard that they were going to look for someone or somewhere. Yi Qing Luo had an intuition. That bunch of people were probably her brothers in the World Group. But she had to settle those two pairs of cousins from Dark Void Hall first before she could chase after the World Group. The few of them were talking. Dark Void Hall. The people from Dark Void Hall are here. Suddenly those villagers who were crowding around abruptly turned around and went back into their own rooms. As though they were facing a great enemy, they all ran away. In a split second. The tea house, which was originally slightly crowded and bustling with noise. Instantly there was only the tea house boss, Yi Qing Luo, and DMO Shen trio. But in a blink of an eye, 10 cultivators dressed in black robes swarmed up. The ones leading the group who were being carried by the carriage were those two cousins. Yo, young lady's guts aren't small, you actually didn't run. The leading lady, LV's eyes were filled with viciousness as she looked at Yi Qing Luo venomously. Run? The leading man, Lu Sanzong, caressed his wound which had already been bandaged as he gave a chilly laugh. You're rather smart, knowing that you can't run, so just wait for your death here obediently. Those 10 cultivators dressed in black robes had already swiftly surrounded the entire tea house. Lu Sanzong and LV and I walked down from the carriage. Their faces were filled with the complacency of capturing their prey, and the joy of venting the anger in their hearts. Young lady. Lu Sanzong's vision was glued onto Yi Qing Luo's face. The young lady's looks. As compared to those beauties whom he had seen before, she indeed wasn't considered as beautiful. But she had that pair of eyes. Like a fox. Just one look and he felt as though there was a whirlpool in those eyes, sucking him in. Especially when the young lady's charming smile was like a blossoming flower. He inexplicably felt that that face was very attractive. Lu Sanzong stared at the young lady, looking her up and down and feeling disgusted. Suddenly he gave an evil smile. Young lady, what benefits do you get from following that gigolo? Why don't you follow me? As long as you follow me, I won't hold it against you for your rude behavior just now, and I'll let the people in this village go. As he spoke, he stroked the stubble on his chin with his fingers. There was a disgusting smile in his eyes. That piercing gaze, this made DMO Shen's expression sunk. His eyes that were pure like sapphires were covered in frost at this moment, and they emitted killing intent. His bamboo-colored robe fluttered even though there was no wind. Cousin, I want that pretty boy. LV's greedy voice came from the side. You're so good-looking and your strength isn't weak either. You're quite suitable to be a gigolo. Both of them had witnessed DMO Shen's strength. He knew that DMO Shen was unfathomable. But now they had a helper. Why would he be afraid of these two young people? Lu Sanzong clapped his hands. One for you and one for me. Perfect. He wanted to see for himself. These two seemed to be aloof and virtuous, like banished immortals. After being captured by them. We'll use what kind of face beg them. Just thinking of this scene made him feel excited. Both of their gazes were extremely nauseating. Courting death. DMO Shen squinted his blue eyes as he looked at Lu Sanzong with a murderous look. He bent his fingers and a dark glow flowed through his fingertips. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4965. Ayun. The young lady's soft voice rang beside his ear. Her fair little hand gently rested on his arm, suppressing the man's irritable breath. Yiqing Luo's pink lips casually raised. Don't be angry this level. I can handle it myself. She walked gracefully, casually past the man and walked towards Lu Sanzong. Dressed in a pink dress as if peach blossoms were in full bloom as she walked. It further complemented the young lady's delicate face, revealing a unique beauty of a young lady. Lu Sanzong's eyes were filled with evil. However, just as Yiqing Luo was about to walk in front of him, the young lady suddenly made a turn. She was already standing in front of LV&I. LV&I was shocked by this sudden turn and took 2 steps back. By the time she regained her senses, her face turned black. Slut, what are you doing? How dare she scare her? She raised her hand and slapped the face that had offended her. You. The young lady's pink lips lightly spat out a word. LV&I only felt a cold flash in front of her eyes. A cold sensation pierced through his skin. Her brain had yet to react. Her body's instincts had already quickly evaded. After LV&I stood still, she saw. The girl in front of him had an evil smile on her face as she stood there. In her fair hand, there was a chilling machete glinting with a cold glint. Her posture was very casual. How dare you covet my man who gave you the guts? The young lady's eyebrows were curved, as delicate as a flower. But the action of her hand was filled with a fierce aura. Swish, the machete cut through the air, directly chopping towards LV&I's face. There was no fancy action. Directly chopping where the vital point was. Chopping you to death, how dare you covet my man? After changing her appearance, she changed into a sock puppet. Naturally, it was impossible to take out her standard weapon. She couldn't use the glower flame fan. Then she would use the simplest and easiest to use, a big machete. Yiqing Luo's fierce action made Lu Sanzong's face turn extremely ugly. Ah! With a blood-curdling scream, LV&I covered her injured arm and leaped backward. She painfully turned her head to look at the dozens of black-clothed profound practitioners. Attack! 3rd Elder Jiang, 4th Elder Jiang, save me. As soon as LV&I's voice fell, Yiqing Luo acutely sensed that there were 2 bursts of murderous intent coming towards her from not too far away. Her expression froze and she quickly retreated. Bang bang bang. A majestic aura exploded in the air. It was as if the air was going to be torn apart. Whereas at this moment Yiqing Luo had already returned to Dmo Xian's side. The invisible profound light exploded and destroyed everything in its surroundings. The entire tea house collapsed. The ground cracked open. From this, it could be seen exactly how powerful the explosion of the profound light was. However, amidst the explosion of the profound light, with Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo as the center, it was as if a vacuum had been created. Fierce and tyrannical profound light filled the sky. They couldn't even get close to the 2 of them. Under the whirlwind of sand, Yiqing Luo saw 2 elderly dressed in Jiang family's aristocratic attire, standing in front of Lu Sanzong and LV&I. The profound chi on those 2 elderly were sharp, like a lurking poisonous snake, ready to explode at any time. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for not knowing how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Lu Sanzong looked coldly at Yiqing Luo, his expression sinister. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily in Dmo Xian's arms, her brows slightly raised as she looked at the elderly. So it's the helpers invited from the Jiang family's aristocratic family. It's really so scary. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4966. The Jiang family's aristocrats really didn't care about their reputation. They had completely handed over their family to the Palace of Darkness. So sure. Would the Palace of Darkness be the final winner? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved slightly as her lips curled into an extremely faint cold arc. Since young lady knows that this is the elder of the Jiang family, why don't you surrender obediently? Lu Sanzong's confidence was different now that he had a backer. Yiqing Luo tilted her head. A strand of hair fell on her cheek, making her look even more charming. The young lady's red lips rose slightly. The Jiang family is one of the top 5 aristocrats and now they are actually helping you. I don't know where this wild chicken force came from. She clicked her tongue. I didn't expect The Jiang family's aristocrats to be in such a state now. How could Lu Sanzong not hear the sarcasm in the young lady's words? His face sunk immediately as he gritted his teeth and sneered, "Young lady, the Dark Void Hall is not some unknown small force now. You can ask anyone in the God realm, who doesn't know the prestige of the Dark Void Hall. The Dark Void Hall naturally has the ability to get the support of the Jiang family's aristocrats." "Ha!" the young lady carelessly snorted, her eyes were full of sarcasm. "Prestige? I think it's infamy?" She paused for a moment and laughed mockingly. "The Jiang family's aristocrats are also thick-skinned to become the backing of such a force like yours, not afraid of getting into trouble." The young lady's words almost made Lu Sanzong die on the spot. The wound on his wrist started to hurt again. "Young lady." The two Jiang family's aristocratic elders who had been silent and pretending to be otherworldly experts finally opened their mouths at this moment. Their eyes were cold and sharp as they stared at Yiqing Luo. "At such a young age, it's better not to be too arrogant." Yiqing Luo replied with a smile. "Both of you are already so old, running over here to be arrogant with a young lady like me, I'm afraid it's not appropriate." The murderous intent in the elder's eyes intensified. Immediately, the two pounced towards them at the same time. "Silly girl, if I don't teach you a lesson, you really don't know your limits." Bang! Thick profound energy burst forth from both of their bodies. The surrounding air instantly turned into a hurricane that surged violently. Yiqing Luo took a look at the surroundings, at the houses which the villagers lived in which had been overturned. The cracks on the ground were getting bigger and bigger. It was as if it would split open at any moment. It made people fall into the abyss. Fortunately, the villagers were not weak. They barely managed to avoid the pressure of the surrounding dark rays and hid far away. However, if this continued, with how merciless his opponent was, it was only a matter of time before the villagers were hurt. He had to avoid it. Yiqing Luo weighed the big machete in her hand as a wisp of dense light flashed past her delicate brows. She was just about to test the strength of those two Jiang family's elders. He had yet to move. Dmo Xian gripped her wrist tightly. "Someone's coming." The man's deep voice rang in her ears. "Humans? At this time in such a remote place could people still come?" Yiqing Luo was just about to ask who it was. All of a sudden, the sounds of all kinds of profound lights colliding could be heard. Immediately, a few figures flashed past the horizon. A few dressed in black, armed with weapons, stood in front of Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. "Sure enough, it's you guys again," one of them said coldly. "Haven't you been taught a lesson enough?" Chapter 4967. Haven't you been beaten up enough yesterday? Now you still dare to find trouble with us. I knew it, this kind of sinister and cunning people. Yesterday they bowed and bowed to us like grandsons, today they will seek revenge on these villagers. Luckily we're here in time. A bunch of rubbish still dare to come here to be arrogant. The young men and women chattered and cursed, instantly turning this dangerous and quiet atmosphere into a hubbub. "It's you guys." When Lu Sanzong saw that group of people, his expression turned steely green. LV's expression was also extremely ugly. "Two losers, now you're looking for helpers to take revenge? We will beat you till you call for your father." Brothers attacked. After that, a group of people swarmed towards the Anshu Hall's side. The minute they went up, Jiang family aristocratic elderly's expression congealed. "A bunch of little dolls, dare to behave atrociously in front of us." The two of them had no chance to deal with Yiqing Luo now. On the contrary, they started to fight with this group of youngsters. Yiqing Luo. Now, wasn't it a good idea to stand here and watch the show? If she didn't help, it would seem as though she was letting down their enthusiastic help. This help. She indeed wanted to take a good look at what kind of training this group of perverts had gone through in the time she wasn't around, and how high were their profound grades now. Which was why they were able to come to God Realm, a place where the big shots were everywhere. They even became the messenger of justice, standing up for others. That's right. These youngsters in front of her were all dressed in black, and when they made a move, they could clearly see the cherry blossoms on their sleeves, as though they were burning in fire. The World Group uniform. These people. Weren't they the group of brothers from the World Group? Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian didn't make a move. The brothers in the World Group were extremely well coordinated. One gaze, one action. They understood the other party's thoughts. After discovering that the two elderly's abilities were extremely powerful, they speedily adjusted their formation. Then they entangled the two elderly so much that they couldn't free themselves. Hence, under the elderly's eyelids. The few of them gave Lu Sanzong and LV and I a beating once again. The kind of beating without any reason at all. The chaotic battle lasted for about half an hour. The old man from the Jiang clan stopped and took Lu Sanzong and LV and I away from the scene. Only a bunch of profound practitioners from the Anshu Hall remained. He had become the captive of a group of young boys and girls. What bullshit Anshu Hall is this? So weak. You're running away? I haven't had enough yet. How boring is this really, the God realm? I feel like he's not even worth a single blow. While tying up the profound practitioners of the Anshu Hall, the young men and women were still bragging in all sorts of ways. It wasn't until they threw all the people into the collapsed tea house that they looked at the villagers who were hiding far away. It's okay, everyone has run away. Hey kitty, where are you going? Suddenly a voice interrupted the hubbub. Yiqing Luo saw a small soft dumpling pouncing into her arms. Sister. Just as the little man opened his mouth and spat out a word, he suddenly paused. Her ears, which were hidden in her hair, trembled slightly. Her glass-like eyes were filled with uncertainty as she looked at this extremely unfamiliar face. The young lady's dainty brows curved as her fair hands cupped the little man's face. Aya, where did this little cutie come from? You look so cute. Yiqing Luo hugged her into her arms. Chapter 4968. This is... She intentionally pinched the little boy's head, the ear which was hidden under the hair, and pretended to be surprised. Ear? Is this your ear? The little boy in her arms froze. A pair of watery glassy eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's face in a daze. Cat, what's the matter? A lady walked over, looking at the little boy nestled in an unfamiliar young lady's arms. She sized up Yiqing Luo in astonishment. This young lady you are? Amuyu. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved as she replied with a smile. You are what the tea house boss mentioned. Young brothers? The young lady's eyes were filled with surprise. Indeed, as what the tea house boss said, you are really so young. She lowered her head to look at the little boy in her arms. You look like 12 or 13 years old, so young and already following the mercenary group to go on missions. You're really incredible. That tone totally seemed to be coaxing a child. Miss Mu. That lady opened her mouth. Just call me you, or calling me Madam Chow is also fine. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at the man beside her, smiling warmly. This is my husband, his name is Chow Yun. The lady looked at the both of them in shock. Both of you? Look so young, you're actually married. Xiao Yi, if you want to get married, we can also get married immediately. A handsome-looking man walked over from the lady's back. That look was so handsome, as though it was a perfect work of art carved out by a divine knife. His every action and every word he spoke and laughed exuded the nobility and dignity of a person in a superior position. Chow Jin. The lady stared at the man. Who wants to marry you? If you don't marry me, who else do you want to marry? The man's jade-like black eyes narrowed dangerously. He suddenly stretched out his hand and locked Yan Xiaoyi's waist, pulling her into his arms, then curled his lips towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Madam Chow, this is my wife Yan Xiaoyi. I'm this mercenary group's acting group leader, Chow Jin. Yiqing Luo was puzzled. Why acting group leader? Because our real group leader is currently fighting for our mercenary group brothers. Chow Jin's brows drooped slightly. However, it was only for an instant. His lips curled up into a smile. That's why I'm the acting commander for now. He waved his hand behind him and said, How did you provoke that bastard from the Anshu Hall? He even forced that bastard from the Dark Void Hall to specially invite two powerful old men over to help him. This time we came back to act tough. Fortunately, we brothers are also very strong. Otherwise, we would have been screwed. As expected of his brother. She had learned the way she spoke and the words she used. Yiqing Luo held back the laughter in her heart as she used the most ordinary tone to reply, Other than destroying that Grand Hall Master's hand and slashing his cousin, I didn't do anything too brutal. Chow Jin, wasn't that cruel? Why do I feel that this girl is a little familiar? However, as she stared at that extremely unfamiliar face, it must be an illusion. Behind him, a few young boys and girls wearing mercenary uniforms walked over. He introduced them one by one. Yiqing Luo greeted the few of them and pretended not to know them, pretending to be genuine. After getting acquainted with the World Group's brothers once again, Yiqing Luo then shifted her vision towards the tea house boss and the villagers not too far away. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4969. She took out a bag of coins and passed it to the tea house boss. Take it as my apology to you. The tea house boss hesitated for a moment. On seeing that there were quite a number of villagers behind, he still accepted the coins. Find another place to stay, this place is no longer safe. Even if this place wasn't destroyed by Dark Void Hall. If they continued to stay here, they would probably be harassed by those siblings from Dark Void Hall daily. They were hindered by Dark Void Hall's power, so they didn't dare to resist. In the end, they couldn't escape from the word, death. The tea house boss apparently thought of this point as well. In the end, the group of them dragged their families and left this piece of wasteland. Alright, now that the matter is settled, we can leave now. Yan Shaoyi looked at those Dark Void Hall cultivators who were tied up on the ground. These people, let's just leave them here. If they can survive, then it means that they aren't fated to die. That's true. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips suddenly curled up in ridicule as a crafty glint flashed past her eyes. But just betting on their luck, isn't it too easy for them? No matter what, we have to increase the difficulty a little. Yi Qing Luo's words were spoken. The world group's gazes all turned over in unison. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly, as delicate as a painting as she walked towards those people. Tight and tight, she lifted her hand. In her fair little hand, there was a small exquisite white jade porcelain bottle. Those Dark Void Hall cultivators' faces turned pale as they stared at Yi Qing Luo's hand, unable to guess what she was holding in her hand. Following that, everyone watched as that pink-dressed young lady held the porcelain bottle as she walked one round around Dark Void Hall's cultivators. In the porcelain bottle, a transparent liquid flowed out. But it was colorless and tasteless. Dark Void Hall's cultivators' expressions turned ugly. What is this? What are you trying to do? This is a good thing and it's very expensive. Yi Qing Luo poured out the liquid in the porcelain bottle as her lips curled up indifferently. I guarantee that it will leave a deep and indelible impression on you till the last moment of your lives. What is that? Yan Shaoyi was curious as she couldn't help but lean forward to ask. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes craftily. Just some wild beasts and magical beasts deep in the mountains like it more. Yan Shaoyi widened her beautiful eyes in understanding. Brilliant, indeed brilliant. The wild beasts and magical beasts in the depths of the mountain had smelled the scent and came over, only to see a group of tightly tied-up profound practitioners. What would happen? Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved into a smile. All right, we have to hurry and evacuate, otherwise we'll be implicated. The group of people immediately left the empty space. After a while, everyone heard the roars of wild beasts coming from the wasteland. It was deafening, shaking heaven and earth. His roar caused everyone's heart to skip a beat. But then he saw, the girl in the pink dress smiled innocently, as if she had nothing to do with these wild beasts. His heart skipped a beat. Why do I feel like this girl's way of doing things so familiar? That's right, I heard from the tea house boss that you had already left that place yesterday. Why did you turn back today? Yi Qing Luo pretended to ask casually. Yan Shaoyi thought for a while. On the way, I heard someone mention that an elder of some Jiang noble family had come here from afar. It was said that it was to support the people of Anshu Hall. I thought that something wasn't right, so I brought my brothers and turned back. Someone mentioned. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes slightly. A bad premonition emerged from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 4970. Not knowing if she was thinking too much. Somehow she felt a little strange. How could it be? So coincidentally, the world group found out that Dark Void Hall had gotten help from the Jiang family's aristocrats? Although Yi Qing Luo was certain that her and Dmo Xian's disguise was flawless, she didn't just change her appearance. All the aura in her body was suppressed by Dmo Xian. Vast water divine relic or the spiritual beast's energy had not leaked out at all. At least, after getting along for so long, the brothers who had great rapport with each other were unable to recognize her at such a close distance. Over at Dark Void Palace, it shouldn't be possible to recognize her, and they specially used the brothers to test her. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips slightly as her fingertips gently rubbed past her wrist, that piece of flawless white jade. This piece of jade was given to her by Blood-Bone Barbaric King. If something happened to the counterfeit, it would be impossible. Or if it was recognized by Dark Void Palace, Blood-Bone Barbaric King would inform her of the situation through this piece of jade. So, The counterfeit wasn't exposed. Dark Void Palace's people should have placed all their attention on the counterfeit. But, facing Dark Void Palace's sinister and cunning, they only knew how to hide in the dark like a rat. She couldn't help but feel a little worried. A warm and big palm held her little hand from behind. Warmth covered her. It also dispersed the uneasiness in her heart. The man's mellow voice entered her ears, revealing an irresistible magnetism. Don't panic. Currently your performance is very good. Yiqing Luo's breathing stilled as she nodded slightly. I know. She was the one who messed up. Then it would give Dark Void Palace a chance. No matter what, she had to stabilize herself first. That bunch of people from Dark Void Hall probably won't give up, so unless it's absolutely necessary, you'd better not return to this place. Yan Shaoyi didn't know what complicated thoughts Yiqing Luo was experiencing right now. She waved her hand at Yiqing Luo. Madam Chow, we still have other matters to attend to. If we're fated, we'll meet again. Yiqing Luo smiled as she nodded. All right, we'll meet again if we're fated. It was rare for her to reunite with the World Group's brothers. But she didn't ask them to stay or voluntarily join their team. She was walking together with the World Group. It just so happened that it was her and Diamo Xian, a man and a woman. It would definitely attract the attention of the Dark Abyss Palace. It was better to split up. Just now, when the few of them were fighting against the Anshu Hall and the elders of the Jiang clan's noble clan, they were all fighting against each other. Yiqing Luo had no choice but to admit. This group of young boys and girls who used to be immature had now grown to a point where even she was amazed. Even though their individual strength was nothing in the divine world, it was still not enough. But they are a team, they have chemistry. Therefore their combined power was enough to take root in the God realm. The World Group and the others headed towards another path. After walking for a few steps, Yiqing Luo slanted her head and stared at the little one in front of her, who had been looking at her without blinking as she smiled slightly. Little cutie, what's the matter? Your friends are all gone. Kitty Lee's voice was soft as a pair of lively beautiful eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. I'm not leaving. Could it be that little cutie is going to abandon your brothers and leave with me? Yiqing Luo smiled as she rubbed her head. Kitty Lee shook her head and nodded her head. Her little face was serious as she stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking at all. Chapter 4971. Kitty? Yan Shaoyi also sensed that someone was missing. She turned her head and saw Kitty Lee, standing eagerly in front of that peach-robed black-haired young lady. She hurriedly walked over and held onto Kitty Lee's little hand. Let's go. Don't. Kitty Lee shook her little head as she stretched out her hand to grab Yiqing Luo's hand. We can go with this, sister. Kitty. Yan Shaoyi's tone became heavier as her expression sunk slightly. We still have things to do. Madam Chow appearing in this kind of desolate wilderness, you must have something important to do, don't mess around. Kitty Lee's little ears trembled as her vivid glassy eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. Yan Shaoyi tugged several times but wasn't able to make Kitty Lee loosen her grip. She was a little embarrassed as she smiled at Yiqing Luo. Madam Chow, I'm so sorry, this sister of mine is not very obedient. No matter. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head as her palm gently caressed Kitty Lee's head. She's very cute, I like her very much too. Actually, she roughly knew why Kitty Lee would display such an expression towards her. Kitty Lee was her contracted beast. No matter how well her presence was suppressed, between Kitty Lee and her there was still some sense. But an unfamiliar face, coupled with an unfamiliar presence, there was totally no sense of connection between the beast and its master. Kitty Lee wasn't certain that she was Yiqing Luo. But the beast's intuition subconsciously made Kitty Lee unwilling to leave her. Yan Shaoyi smiled as she held onto Kitty Lee's wrist. Kitty Lee, listen to me. Kitty Lee's little hand held onto Yiqing Luo's arm tightly as her spirited beautiful eyes were filled with determination. I want to talk to you about her matters. When Yan Shaoyi said the word her, she intentionally suppressed her voice and emphasized it. Kitty Lee's pupils contracted slightly. In the end, she let go of Yiqing Luo and left with Yan Shaoyi. The two of them didn't walk far. They were whispering something. From Yiqing Luo's angle, she could see the shape of their lips. Yan Shaoyi's expression congealed as she suppressed her voice. Mao Mao, now is not the time to fool around. It wasn't easy for us to come to God Realm and our only motive is to find Qing Luo. Don't create unnecessary problems. Kitty feels that person is very familiar. Kitty Lee frowned. Kitty doesn't know why. Kitty just doesn't want that person to leave. Madame Chow and that young Master Chow, although they don't seem to be much of a threat, Yin Shaoyi changed the topic, but you must understand those who dare to challenge the Anshu Hall, are they really as innocent and harmless as they appear on the surface? She looked at Kitty Li as her tone became even more solemn. Kitty, Qing Luo is in danger now, we cannot waste any more time here. Ghost Thief Master has already received news? Miss Feng took her fiancé and quietly went to find the Feng family's treasures. The Dark Palace has already sent people to follow them secretly, but Miss Feng doesn't know anything. Yin Shaoyi's tone became even more solemn. Do you know what this represents? Kitty? Kitty Li's eyelashes drooped slightly as she opened her mouth weakly. Kitty knows. Miss Feng was their Qing Luo. Now that Qing Luo's whereabouts had been exposed, the Dark Palace definitely wanted to make use of Qing Luo to find the Feng family's treasures. They had to stop Qing Luo before she found the Feng family's treasures. Chapter 4972. Since you know, then I won't say anything more. Yin Shaoyi replied, don't drag innocent people into this. Yi Qing Luo roughly understood the conversation between the both of them from the shape of their lips. A surge of warmth started to spread from her heart. Her pink lips unknowingly curled into an arc, her brows were dainty like the crescent moon. These brothers of hers. They really stepped into the god realm because of her. All the hard work, struggles, goals were all for her. To have such a group of brothers who wholeheartedly thought of her. It was her fortune. Madame Chow. Suddenly, a slender figure blocked her line of sight. The figure was short and the pink dumpling attire made that cute little face look even more adorable. But that pair of eyes which were like stagnant water had no waves as it stared straight at her. It really gave her a feeling of shock. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she tilted her head and pretended to be puzzled. You seem to be Mo-Yuing? The pink dumpling looked at her expressionlessly and didn't answer her question. Instead she asked coldly, why are you looking at them for? The icy cold voice was stiff and emotionless. It was still that familiar shadow. She wondered what Xiao Yinyan that fellow was doing. So useless. Still unable to turn the shadow into a real little Lolita. Yi Qing Luo ridiculed in her heart but didn't show it on her face as she smiled. They are pretty. Mo Yu Ying's brows turned cold as she replied indifferently, don't look at what you shouldn't look at. Saying that, she turned around and walked away. Don't mind her, the shadow is not targeting you. Xiao Jin smiled at Yi Qing Luo as he explained warmly. Following that, he took a look at Yen Xiaoyi and Kitty Li as his eyes revealed an ambiguous smile. When he turned to Yi Qing Luo, it was a polite and warm smile. Madame Chow, where are you planning to go? Is there anything we can help with? Yi Qing Luo could tell. Xiao Jin was suspecting her identity. Of course, it wasn't because he recognized her as Yi Qing Luo. But he felt that she was related to the secluded palace. It was good to be vigilant. After all, the palace of gloomy darkness was so sinister. Yi Qing Luo's long lashes drooped down slightly as she gave a faint sigh. We intend to head over to the Devil region, I heard that. There's a devil dragon in the Devil region. Demon domain? Xiao Jin was startled. Demonic domain. It was an independent realm that transcended the boundaries of the god realm. It was said that it was like hell. Demons ran amok and the slaughter was monstrous. No profound practitioner was willing to step into it. These two people actually wanted to go to the demon domain? And to search for the mystic dragon? One had to know that dragons were extremely rare. Other than their Qing Luo, that big pervert who had a dragon. Basically, they had not seen any other dragons until now. It was the same in the demon domain. Yi Qing Luo's voice was rather low and her emotions seemed to have sunk by quite a bit. My marriage with Ayun, his father was extremely against it and later on in an accident. Because of Ayun, he suffered a very serious injury and needed the demon dragon's blood to save him. This was the excuse that Yi Qing Luo had long come up with. The imperial palace had made arrangements. She was also not afraid of investigations. Because their identities and everything else would become the truth. Xiao Jin went into a blank and immediately opened his mouth. I'm sorry. It's all right. Yi Qing Luo smiled. You should still have a mission, so Ayun and I will not disturb you anymore. If we are fated to meet again next time, that would mean that there's really a lot of fate between us. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love for everyone to collect. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love for me. Chapter 4973. Her long and narrow eyes were like crescent moons as she smiled. The next time we meet, I'll treat you all to a big meal to express your life-saving grace today. Xiao Jin also smiled. It's a promise. Yiqing Luo sent the group of brothers off with her eyes. The curvature of her lips, from the start till the end, was filled with gratification and warmth. The man hugged her waist from behind as his voice was mellow. It's really surprising. He laughed softly. Once in Nirvana realm they were called trash, but now they are able to stand on God realm's turf, and even cross hands with God realm's aristocratic elders, and they are not inferior at all. As their spiritual pillar, as their life mentor, how do you feel? The man's question made Yiqing Luo's smile even more gentle. She turned around as she buried her head into his chest. Really? Very touched. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth with a light smile. They finally became what they wanted to be. Their improvement, and they were able to stand on God realm. Everything had already exceeded her expectations. Although, right from the start, these devil-class students were not ordinary people. But, to be able to grow from that kind of situation to where they were now, really, very powerful. Yiqing Luo was happy for them from the bottom of her heart. But, on the other side, she pursed her pink lips as she heaved a heavy sigh. Now that they've come to God realm, I'm afraid that the people from Gloomy Palace will also notice them, and take the opportunity to create trouble. Gloomy Palace loved to play with people's emotions. The kind that loved to break up. Gloomy Palace would never understand the love of the most. As though only by turning everyone into the same as Gloomy Palace. Only then could they pacify Gloomy Palace's sick mentality. Since they're here, then they must have made all the mental preparations. What you need to do now is to destroy Gloomy Palace's plans and shatter their hope. After that, become even stronger and complete. Your promise to me. Diamo Xian's mellow voice was like fine wine, low and hoarse. Like a warm hot spring, it could easily soothe all the worries in her heart. Promise? The promise to stand shoulder to shoulder to enjoy the world together? Yiqing Luo's dainty little face blushed slightly. Lifting her eyes, she gazed at the cute Shota Diamo Xian in front of her. She stretched out her hand and cupped his face, looking into his azure sapphire clear eyes. I know. Her eyes were tinged with a smile. Let's go, we have to hurry. I keep feeling that the world group's reason for returning is unclear. Don't worry, I'm here. Diamo Xian held her little hand. However, after setting off again, Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian both met with trouble. Because the Anshu Hall's influence could be found all over the God world. Maybe it was because Lu Sanzong and LVNI had been humiliated. Or perhaps the elders of the Jiang clan were humiliated. The Dark Void Hall immediately issued a kill order. Portraits of her and Diamo Xian were plastered all over the God realm, resulting in Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian, even if they were to disguise themselves. His name had already spread far and wide in the firmament. Yiqing Luo. She had already kept a low profile, but her ability didn't allow her to. What could she do? She was in despair too. Sob. Yiqing Luo pulled Diamo Xian as she nestled at a corner of the city wall, picking up the kill order on the ground. On it, she could faintly see that the drawing was of her and Diamo Xian. It even indicated their names and symbols. Yiqing Luo crumpled the paper into a ball. Why are they only chasing after the two of us? The ones who did this are the world group. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4974. Diamo Xian held her hand, which was rubbing the paper earlier, as he gently rubbed it, as he asked with a smile, "Don't tell me you wish for them to chase after the world group?" Forget it. Yiqing Luo pouted. Let's just chase after the both of us. If she didn't enter hell, who would? Who asked her to be their big shot? Yiqing Luo put on a bitter face as she leaned her head on Diamo Xian's shoulder. This time round, it's going to be tough on the both of us. Originally, in order to avoid people's eyes and ears, we were so careful when we left. Now it's even harder for us to move. It's hard to handle. The young lady turned her head around and around in the man's arms. Every single word sounded as though it was extremely difficult. But the young lady's tone didn't contain any trace of difficulty. If you restrain the excitement in your tone, perhaps I might pretend to believe you. Diamo Xian pinched her nose as his thin lips slightly curled, which made him look even more peerless. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved like a crescent moon. She raised her head as she smiled at the man's indulgent gaze. Do you feel that when you're with me, there will be endless troubles coming knocking on your door every day? At this point she paused for a moment. Her charming eyes opened like a blooming rose, peerlessly beautiful. But she changed the topic as her slender fingers propped her chin as her tone was arrogant and complacent. This kind of days really won't be boring at all. She leaned closer to Diamo Shen's face as she suppressed her voice and gave a light smile. My Mr. Husband. How's the taste of living a colorful life every day? It's good to have you. The man's beautiful thin lips opened slightly as his mellow and hoarse voice lingered in her heart like fine wine. With you around, no matter if it's rain or shine, no matter if it's ordinary or not. As long as you're around, it's good enough. Yiqing Luo could hear the man's hidden words of love in his words. That delicate face was stained with a thin shade of red. Her eyes pouted coquettishly as her voice was soft as she muttered softly, with you around, it's also very good. Luckily, no matter where she went, no matter where she was, no matter how many burdens she carried, her Xian only belonged to her. He had always been by her side and had never left. To have such a husband was already a winner in life. The girl's smile was filled with satisfaction and gentleness from the bottom of her heart. Between those pair of beautiful eyes, there was also a look of longing. She stared into the man's eyes. She could only see herself reflected in the man's ink-colored eyes. Her pink lips parted and she enunciated each word clearly. When the Palace of Darkness plan is destroyed, we'll return to the Phoenix Manor, and let's get married. Diamo Shen's body suddenly stiffened. It was as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. The whirlpools in his obsidian-like eyes surged. He was agitated, but he deliberately restrained himself. One word came out of his mouth. However, his throat was dry and he couldn't say anything else. The smile on the girl's face deepened. She took a step back. Then he slowly stretched out a hand towards him. Her lips curled up, and her smile bloomed like a blooming flower. May I ask, young Master Diamo Shen, are you willing to marry me? Diamo Shen's heart and brain at this moment, the first time, was messed up. Boom! His mind was filled with a buzzing sound. He couldn't hear anything at all. In his eyes there was only that peach blossom dress. Under the fluttering jet black hair, that blushing complexion became even more exquisite and beautiful. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4975. Her pink lips curled into a smile. When he looked at her, his eyes seemed to be filled with a starry sky. Warmth wrapped around him. Diamo Shen's heart suddenly trembled. After a long while, the buzzing sound in his mind gradually stopped. His gaze was deep as he stared unblinkingly at the girl's delicate and charming face. He stretched out his hand and pulled her into his arms. From the moment I met you, I have already decided that you are my only wife. In this life, even in the afterlife, I will marry no one else but you. The man's low and hoarse voice had his unique magnetism, like a feather tickling her heartstrings. Yiqing Luo. My blood is empty. She hugged Diamo Shen tightly. Then it's decided. The man laughed lowly. His voice was pleasant and intoxicating. Old Man Song's helpless and sighing voice came from Yiqing Luo's mind. Sigh, a grown-up girl can't be kept at home. You're so passionate, those who don't know would think that you want to marry me so badly. Yiqing Luo's slender brows suddenly rose as if she thought of something. Her pink lips curled up and became mischievous. Her long and narrow eyes curved slyly. When she raised her head, the smile on her face faded as she pretended to be serious. I'm the one who proposed, you're the one who married me. To be more precise, I should be the one who married you. Her smile was a bit mischievous as she stretched out her fair hand and hooked his chin. She deliberately raised her eyebrows. So, it's you who wants to marry me, Old Man Song. Didn't changing the method mean that you don't hate to marry me? What was with the feeling of an old father who couldn't keep his daughter? Old Man Song let out a sigh like an old father. Diamo Shen lowered his eyes, his pupils reflected the young girl's charming face. A young girl with black hair and peach-colored clothes. Her smile was brilliant, like a blooming rose. Her slightly narrowed charming eyes were overflowing with beauty. Just a glance at them would cause one's heart to flutter. His brows gradually softened, even the cold and stiff lines on his face seemed to soften. He slowly held the young girl's hand and raised it. Then he slightly bent down. His dark red lips were imprinted on the back of his hand. It was as if he had kissed his most precious treasure. All right. Marry or marry. As long as it's you, everything's fine. The tip of Yi Qing Luo's ears were stained with a thin layer of red. Her Xian was getting better and better at flirting. Every day, I'm overwhelmed with emotions from being teased by my own husband. What should I do? I'm waiting online. His goal was to take care of the Palace of Darkness. Yi Qing Luo expressed. He was pumped full of adrenaline. What kind of damned hunting order was this? She wasn't afraid anymore. Yi Qing Luo was valiant and high-spirited as she pulled Dmo Xian along as they started their journey towards the Devil region. He was not allowed to walk the right path. Couldn't she take the small path? The facts proved that. Indeed, it was impossible. Just as Yi Qing Luo pulled Dmo Xian bypassing the city, walking on the wild mountain road. In the end, they still ran into each other. They were from the Anshu Hall. This might be the so-called enemies meet on a narrow road. Here's the thing. In the wilderness, there were all kinds of magical beasts crawling here and there. Generally speaking, with a big boss like Dmo Xian by her side. Once the imposing manner was released, the beast's intuition would make them take a detour. But unfortunately, as the two of them held hands as though they were on an outing, shuttling through the wilderness. Thump, 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 magical beast's footsteps approached. When they looked towards the direction of the sound, they saw a huge creature, thousands of densely packed tentacles. Centipede magical beast, opening its mouth full of sharp teeth, dripping with sticky saliva, pouncing towards them. Chapter 4976. This magical beast was already right in front of them and still wanted to eat them? Kill it decisively. Then, just as she was about to send the centipede's corpse flying with a kick, swoosh, 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 a dense rain of arrows rained down on them. Following that, a group of cultivators dressed in Dark Void Hall's uniform rushed out. Who are you? How dare you? How dare you snatch our Dark Void Hall's prey? That sudden rain of arrows made Yi Qing Luo dumbfounded. She was protected in Dmo Xian's arms and avoided those arrows. Yi Qing Luo then looked at them. It's you? Some cultivators from Dark Void Hall exclaimed in surprise after seeing Yi Qing Luo's face. The person on the Dark Void Hall's kill order. Immediately, more than 10 cultivators rushed out and surrounded Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian. The two of you made our Dark Void Hall look for you. The leader sneered as he stared at Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian. So you were hiding in this wilderness. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as she looked at the leader's complacent face, not quite understanding what he was so pleased about. Or did he feel, met her, that he could capture her and Dmo Xian back to the Dark Void Hall to claim the reward? Tiske, young lad, you're still too young. Yi Qing Luo didn't say a word as she pulled out her machete and rushed forward. Following that, the 10 over-cultivators from Dark Void Hall discovered. When they faced Yi Qing Luo, they had no way to deal with her at all. What's more, the leader was struck by Yi Qing Luo's strange movements and her totally unconventional slashing skills. He was directly injured. His wrists and chest were bleeding from the cuts. The cultivators from Dark Void Hall were stunned. This lady was strange. No wonder Big Master and Second Master were at a disadvantage in her hands. No wonder she was on the Dark Void Hall's kill order. The leader expressed that he couldn't beat her. So, his gaze fell on the centipede's corpse by Yi Qing Luo's feet and said, Our Dark Void Hall has always been open and above board. We can't bully a weak lady like you. So, this is the prey of our Anshu Hall. Return the prey to us and we will let you live. Yi Qing Luo. What the heck? This was the first time she had seen someone more shameless than her. Honest and upright? More than a dozen people bullying her and she couldn't handle it? Which son of a bitch was fighting with her just now? He really had the cheek to say that. As expected of the shameless Anshu Hall. Yi Qing Luo was so angry that she laughed. She lifted her leg and kicked the centipede demonic beast. Her long and narrow eyes were frivolous as she asked with a casual smile, You want this thing? This is the prey we are hunting. Dark Void Hall's team leader stared at Yi Qing Luo with a face full of vigilance. Hand over our prey and we'll spare your life. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened. Her crescent moon-like charming eyes seemed to be rippling with layers and layers of ripples. Then, under the watchful eyes of everyone, a ball of dazzling profound light appeared in her hand. Boom. The profound light suddenly exploded. It stirred up a hurricane. When the hurricane weakened, it was already too late. Everyone then saw that centipede demonic beast's corpse by Yiqing Luo's feet was like a green smoke, dissipating into the air. It was directly blown up, not leaving any residue behind. Alright now, there's nothing left. The young lady tilted her head, smiling innocently. Her long and narrow eyes deliberately blinked. Dark Void Hall's cultivators. This action. It was a blatant provocation to them. Simply not putting their Dark Void Hall in their eyes. Chapter 4977. They must have forgotten. If the other party cared about the Anshu Hall, how could he possibly be on the wanted list of the Anshu Hall? You. The leader of the Anshu Hall was enraged. Blue veins popped out on his forehead. This centipede demonic beast was precisely the one they had searched for with great difficulty. It was an essential medicinal ingredient to treat the great master. There were quite a few centipede demonic beasts. However, this extremely powerful high-grade centipede demonic beast was extremely powerful. That was very rare. It could be said, they were lucky to have encountered such a beast. They had put in a lot of effort and many of their companions had died. Only then did he manage to subdue the centipede. However, due to a moment of carelessness, the centipede demonic beast managed to escape. They chased after her. He saw the centipede demonic beast being stepped on by a young girl. It would have been fine if the girl had left the centipede demon beast's corpse as a medicinal ingredient. At least they could think of a way to snatch it. But the other party had directly blown up the centipede demonic beast's corpse, leaving nothing behind. This was obviously done on purpose. The enemy was targeting the Anshu Hall. The Dark Void Hall's cultivators had already filled in 10,000 words in their minds, regarding Yiqing Luo and the Dark Void Hall's love and hatred. Hence, on the second day of the kill order. On the second day of the city's turmoil. Swish, a flare shot into the sky, announcing Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's current location. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the signal flare exploding in the sky. They are looking for help. Scared now. The captain of the Dark Void Hall had a cold look in his eyes. You're already on the wanted list of the Dark Void Hall, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Just wait for your death. Yiqing Luo. This young lad's brain wasn't too good, right? She was not stupid. She was not interested in wasting her time here. In any case, he knew that he had inadvertently ruined the opportunity for the leader of the Anshu Hall, Lu Sanzong, to treat his wounds. That was enough. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian along as she turned around and ran. He ran away without any hesitation. It was so fast that the leader of the Dark Void Division did not even have time to react. The two people in front of him had already disappeared. Of course, even if he managed to react, he might not be able to stop it. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian and turned into another part of the dense forest. He could also vaguely hear the angry roars of the Dark Void Division's captain. These people from the Anshu Hall were truly interesting. When she was here, he was as timid as a grandson. She's not here at all. This aura, this explosive roar, it was simply imposing. Yiqing Luo was still thinking if she should turn back to scare them. This thought had just flashed across his mind. Suddenly, the man beside her put his arm around her waist and looked at the other end of the jungle. Who is it? Someone? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she followed Dmo Xian's line of sight. In the dense mountain forest, the weeds could be faintly seen swaying in the lush grass. That was not the sway of the wind. Instead, it followed the breathing of a person and swayed gently. Someone was hiding there? She couldn't even sense his aura. Someone from the Anshu Hall? There was no response from the bushes. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered slightly and the dark rays spread out silently, brushing past the grass. A series of painful screams could be heard from inside. That cry was very immature. It was a child's voice. Dmo Xian also heard the child's voice and his aura calmed down. The two of them saw a young boy around 8 or 9 years old, bound by an invisible profound ray and brought right in front of Yiqing Luo. The young boy was in a sorry state and his clothes were tattered. But that pair of eyes was unexpectedly clear. Chapter 4978. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed Dmo Xian's arm. The little boy fell onto the ground. That pair of bright eyes stared at the both of them without blinking. Gradually his eyes turned red. The little boy suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to the both of them. I beg you to save me, save my brother. Yiqing Luo? What situation was this? looking at that little boy crying into a ball. Yiqing Luo inexplicably thought of Feng Shi. She sighed softly, although she was soft-hearted, but she wasn't so silly to let down her guard against this little boy. She waved her sleeves and a profound ray swept past, lifting the little boy up from the ground. The little boy's dirty little face was full of tear stains. That pair of clear eyes was filled with a pleading look of facing death calmly. Facing death calmly? What the hell? She didn't do anything to him. Why did he look as though he was facing death calmly? Did he treat her as a dreadful beast? Then what was the point of asking for help? You dare to go against the Dark Void Hall? You must not be afraid of the power of the Dark Void Hall, right? The little boy's voice trembled, and after being stared at by Yiqing Luo, even his body was trembling. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and touched her own face. Under the boy's hopeful and faintly fearful gaze, she narrowed her eyes slightly and asked instead of answering, Do I look very scary? No matter how one looked at her, her face was very charming and adorable, very pure and innocent. Anyone who saw her would have a good impression of her. Why was this little boy so afraid of her? Angry, happy. The little boy was stunned by this question. He hurriedly shook his head. No, not scary, good looking. Since it's good looking, what are you afraid of? Yiqing Luo retracted her hand in satisfaction. That's right, even if it was a disguised face. That was also good looking. The little boy was stunned for a moment before he reacted and said with a trembling voice, I'm afraid. Afraid that you won't help me? Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose again. You haven't said clearly, what do you want me to help? How do you know that I won't help? The little boy was slightly dazed by Yiqing Luo's question. It took a long time for him to come around. It was Diamo Xian who stretched out his hand and held onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder as his voice was mellow and gentle. This child should have seen you dealing with those people from Dark Void Hall, so she wants to seek your help to deal with Dark Void Hall, right? Yiqing Luo looked at the man beside her with interest. When did you become so enthusiastic? He had always been a person who wouldn't care if things didn't involve her. At this moment he actually took the initiative to speak. The man's eyebrows and eyes were like a painting, showing off his magnificence and elegance. His dark red lips curled up into an indecipherable smile. He lowered his gaze and leaned over. His deep and husky voice carried the unique magnetism of a man, because I thought of our future children. Yiqing Luo. Wasn't she thinking a little too far ahead? She pinched Diamo Xian. Then she turned her gaze to the little boy. Tell me, what do you want me to help you with? Dark Void Hall. I want you to help me deal with Dark Void Hall. The little boy's voice was no longer trembling. He clenched his fists tightly as his eyes were filled with hatred. No one dares to go against Dark Void Hall, and no one dares to say no to Dark Void Hall. But, sister, you dare? As he said that, he wanted to kneel down again. Sister, I beg you, save me, save my brother. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please hit me. Chapter 4979. Yiqing Luo's sleeves fluttered. Don't be in a hurry to kneel. If you don't explain clearly, how can I help you? This child, what's wrong with him to like to kneel down for no reason? What did the Dark Void Hall do to you? Why do you hate them? And who is your brother? What did they do to him? Yiqing Luo straightened out the young boy's train of thought. With Yiqing Luo's question. The young boy sobbed softly as he answered Yiqing Luo's question. The young boy's name was Jianghu. He lived in a nearby city, an ordinary family in the most secluded abandoned land. It was such an ordinary family that could be called a slum. Would be involved with the Dark Void Hall. The turning point happened on a certain day at a certain moment. A good-looking woman brought along a seriously injured, equally good-looking man to hide in their abandoned courtyard. The young boy's parents were honest and kind-hearted. Seeing someone so seriously injured, they left him behind and went into the mountains to pick herbs to treat the man's injury. Unfortunately, it was this rescue which led to the young boy's family being destroyed. The Dark Void Hall chased after them. Without any explanation, blood splattered across the entire slum. The Dark Void Hall's motive was to capture that man and woman. When the Dark Void Hall arrived, the parents stuffed the boy, the man, and the woman into the basement to avoid a massacre. Yiqing Luo listened to the young boy's furious tone, holding back his tears as he spoke of the hatred between him and the Dark Void Hall. Then he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo firmly. Sister, you're not afraid of the dark void hall, I can only seek help from you. As long as you help me take revenge, I will sell myself to you. He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes scarlet red. As long as I can take revenge, I am willing to pay any price. Yiqing Luo coughed lightly. You don't need to sell yourself to me. Although he was a 10-year-old boy. But he was after all a boy. Sell to her? A big vinegar jar. This vinegar jar could not be covered anymore. From the little boy's eyes, which were filled with anger and were flushed red, Yiqing Luo was certain that he wasn't lying. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips and asked, in this case, the brother you mentioned who wanted me to save, is the man who hid in your house? Jianghu nodded. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she bent over slightly, looking down at him condescendingly. A wisp of cold light rippled out from her pair of long and narrow eyes. Her pink lips curled up as she enunciated clearly, in conclusion, the tragedy that befell your family was all because you saved that brother. Not only did you not receive any rewards for your good deeds, you even caused your family to be ruined. Don't you hate him? After finishing this sentence, Yiqing Luo straightened her body as her smile was filled with ridicule. Why are you still thinking of saving him for? He's the real culprit who killed your parents, isn't he? The girl's voice was cold and clear. His tone was calm and cold. He was obviously smiling. She even smiled as brightly as a flower. But the words that came out of his mouth were exceptionally sharp. Jianghu's eyes widened bit by bit as he listened. She clenched her fists even tighter. Her dirty, tear-stained face was now filled with anger. Big Brother isn't the main culprit. Big Brother is also a victim. Everything is because of the Anshu Hall's ruthlessness and cruelty. End of this chapter. Waste 7th. Young Miss. Overlord, please be gentler. Chapter 4980. The little man bit his pale lips. Brother didn't want to stay in the beginning, he was afraid of dragging us down. It's me, I like Brother, I'm the one who asked Father and Mother to let Brother stay. He lowered his head as tears filled his eyes once again. Father and Mother have never regretted saving Brother, otherwise they wouldn't have pushed Brother and Sister into the basement with me. Brother's life was exchanged with Father and Mother's lives. He sniffled and suddenly raised his head, glaring at Yiqing Luo. I'm not as bad as you, blaming everything on Brother. But the moment he raised his head, what he met was the young lady's frivolous pink lips, a satisfied smile. The young lady with black hair and peach blossom clothes slowly walked towards Jianghu. Slightly bent over, her fair fingers, under Jianghu's wide-opened eyes, slowly moved to his head. Fiercely it bounced once. Jianghu regained his senses, hugged his head, crying out in pain. Over at the Dark Void Hall, they always create trouble for me, it's still not a small problem. Yiqing Luo looked at Jianghu with a smile. Anyway, I'm going to destroy the entire Dark Void Hall, so I'll help you take revenge. Jianghu was still hugging his head. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he couldn't react. After some time, his eyes suddenly widened, looking at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. You agreed? Yiqing Luo's lips curled. After all, I'm a good person. Jianghu. Although he didn't feel that she was a good person, but he couldn't say it out. Where is that brother of yours? Is he about to die or what? Bring me to take a look, perhaps he can still be saved. Yiqing Luo said. Jianghu's eyes sunk, he lowered his brows, his little hands clenched tightly. Brother? He was taken away by the Dark Void Hall. Yiqing Luo? Didn't he hide in the basement to escape? Why was he taken away? Did she still have to go to the Dark Void Hall to save him? Was it too late to back out now? Jianghu opened his mouth weakly. The Dark Void Hall searched the slums, but couldn't find Brother and Sister, but later on they came again. The man was already heavily injured and had no strength to resist. In order to protect him, the older sister could only watch helplessly as the people from the Anshu Hall took her brother away. Bring us to your house first. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. At the very least, he had to meet that woman and find out what kind of enmity she had with the Anshu Hall. Only then could he set out to save them. It was no wonder that the slums were called the slums. Especially after being massacred by the Anshu Hall. It was already so dilapidated and desolate that it didn't seem like a place suitable for living, making it even more desolate. Yiqing Luo pulled Dmo Xian as she followed behind Jianghu, turning here and there. It took a lot of twists and turns. Finally, it stopped in a cave that couldn't be called a house. Jianghu ran into the cave and shouted at the top of his lungs, Sister Qing, I found a helper. I found a helper who can help us save brother. The little girl's voice was full of excitement. However, after rushing into the underground cave, when he saw the girl who was ready to set off and was sheathing her sword, his excited expression froze. Big Sister Qing, where are you going? End of this chapter. Trash 7th Young Miss. Overlord, please be gentler. Chapter 4981. The lady's exquisite face had a cold expression. A pair of icy cold eyes glanced at Jianghu as she said coldly, I'll go save him. There are many people in the Dark Void Hall and they are all very powerful. I heard that they had invited the Jiang family's aristocratic elders over to help. Jianghu anxiously advised, Sister Qing, you can't go save him alone. Don't tell me I have to bring you along. The lady's voice was flat. Our arrival has already caused you enough harm, we don't need you anymore. She walked past Jianghu and walked straight out. Jianghu immediately held the lady's hand. Sister Qing? The lady didn't turn back. Under her cold and elegant face, there was a slight change in her expression. But it was fleeting. She opened her mouth. If I can come back alive, I will definitely repay your family's kindness. Saying that, she struggled free from Jianghu and walked out of the cave without any hesitation. Who's there? Outside the cave, light shone down. It reflected two long slender figures at the entrance of the cave. The lady's eyes were vigilant, her hand holding the long sword as her murderous intent was apparent. Close. A man and a lady standing at the entrance of the cave entered the lady's sight. The young lady was dressed in a peach-pink dress, looking delicate and lovely. The man was dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe, looking delicate and adorable, but his aura was mature and steady. When he came into contact with that pair of sapphire blue eyes, he felt a chill run down his spine. The woman couldn't help but be startled. You guys. You must be the Sister Qing that Ziyi mentioned. The young lady spoke first, revealing a charming smile. I'm the helper that Ziyi found to help you save him. My name is Muyu, this is my husband, Chao Yun. She took 2 steps back, revealing the cave entrance, allowing the lady to come out. The lady's eyes were filled with vigilance, sizing up the young lady. It was until Jianghu ran out of the cave, that Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's identities were confirmed. The lady's expression was cold, her eyes were cold and distant. I don't need anyone's help. Sister Qing. Jianghu grabbed the lady's hand. This sister is very powerful, she can easily make those people from the Dark Void Hall in the palm of her hand. The lady glanced at Yiqing Luo indifferently, looking at the young lady's innocent look, her expression turned colder. I don't need your help. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms over her chest, with a slight smile on her face, she casually said, As for me, I'm the one who issued the kill order from the Dark Void Hall, so I'm in an irreconcilable situation with the Dark Void Hall. Even if I'm not helping you, I'm going to exterminate the Dark Void Hall. So, you don't have to worry about implicating me because I'm already a part of this. The woman's lips moved, but no words came out. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose. Miss also wants to save your friend, right? One more person, one more portion of strength. It's better than to charge into the Dark Void Hall alone and then die together with your friend in the Dark Void Hall. Isn't that right? Jianghu. Somehow he felt that this analogy was a bit weird. The cold woman fell silent for several breaths of time. After some time she slowly cupped her hands towards Yiqing Luo. Her voice was slightly cold, but her tone was especially solemn. My name is Tong Ziqing, thank you for joining us. Yiqing Luo smiled, her eyes were as delicate as a painting. No need to apologize, we're in a relationship of helping each other. Ziqing, long time no see. She didn't expect to meet her here. Then the one who was being pursued by the Dark Void Hall. The one who needed her to save him. The brother, that Jianghu mentioned. It should be him. Yes, who pinched him? The answer to the riddle can only be revealed if the tickets are left. End of this chapter. Trash 7th Young Miss. Overlord, be gentle with your love. Chapter 4982. Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing had always been with Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing would be here. And she planned to save someone alone. That person must be Long Yunzhan. But what made Yiqing Luo felt strange was Long Yunzhan was someone whom the Dark Palace had arranged to be in the Devil class. Which was the person who was arranged to be by her side. Which was also someone from the Dark Palace. The Dark Void Hall was the Dark Palace. using the Jiang family's aristocrats to create trouble. According to this logic, Long Yunzhan was considered to be in cahoots with the Dark Void Hall. Why did the people from the Dark Void Hall want to kill Long Yunzhan? She was filled with doubts. But at this moment, the person who was carrying the Yi Muyu Qing Luo little vest could not lose her character and could not fall off the horse. So she could only pretend to be casual as she casually asked, "Who are you trying to save? Why are you being chased by the people from the Dark Void Hall?" To the extent that they even massacred the entire slums. How big of an enmity did they have? Tong Ziqing's cold brows sunk slightly. She lowered her eyes and didn't say a word, with no intention to answer Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo didn't continue asking as she changed the topic. "Do you know where the people from the Dark Void Hall have captured your friend?" Tong Ziqing's hand, which was holding the weapon, tightened slightly as a cold glint flashed past her eyes. She pursed her slightly pale lips as she spoke in a chilly tone. "I know where the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall is." "All right, then you lead the way." Yi Qing Luo nodded her head without much emotion. Such a straightforward reply, which made Tong Ziqing stunned. She raised her pair of cold beautiful eyes as she stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. "Aren't you curious as to how I know? If you want to tell me, you will naturally tell me." Yi Qing Luo's long and slender eyes curved like the moon. "If you don't want to say, even if I ask you, you won't say, so why bother?" She curled her lips slightly. "Dealing with the Dark Void Hall is not just to help you save someone. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. If you know where the headquarters of the Dark Void Hall is, there are only advantages and no disadvantages for me. Why should I care? How did you know where the Anshu Hall's headquarters is?" The girl's tone was very indifferent, and there was not much emotion in her voice. A few simple sentences. It made Tong Ziqing's heart tighten for no reason. Her long and beautiful eyelashes fluttered twice like butterfly wings. When he looked at Yi Qing Luo, there were some hidden emotions in the depths of his eyes. Then, are we going now?" Jiang Zi did not notice the surging emotions between the two adults. He clenched his fists tightly, and his young face was filled with hatred. "I must kill the people of Anshu Hall to avenge my parents and the people around me." Yi Qing Luo originally didn't intend to bring Jiang Zi along. However, when she saw the burning rage in the boy's clear eyes, which seemed to be able to incinerate everything in the surroundings, she couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. She silently called out to him, "Follow him closely, don't leave him by even half a step, do you understand?" Yi Qing Luo pointed at the man beside her, and then looked at Jiang Zi solemnly. "If there's a chance, I'll let you personally take revenge, but if the timing isn't right, you're not allowed to forcefully take revenge, understand?" The boy pursed his lips tightly as he nodded his little head hard. He took small steps as he inched towards Diamo Xian's side. "I will definitely follow brother closely." Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. "Overlord, please be gentler with your love, everyone please collect it." Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. "Overlord, please be gentler with your love, the updates are the fastest." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.